Did you have more purchasing power in the purple block or the red block? Overwhelmingly.
This is where the limitations of liberalism come into play. GDP being a fake metric for quality of life standards has nothing to do with whether or not migrants are actually ruining your life personally.
GDP isn't fake, it's
or
just...
not. While I do agree with Asmongold in terms of GDP being a not
like it's real. It's tied to a real thing. It's just
present the perfect
in the way that people try to describe it in terms of like they try to use it in this all way to say the country is just that's ridiculous.
Conversation that you started, Asmongold, where you claimed that undocumented migrants are ruining people's lives. It's completely irrelevant. GDP is only a worthless indicator until it suits him. Let's be clear. Yeah, ironically enough, he said, let's put all the undocumented migrants in one place, in one state, and see what happens to the economy, was the initial claim that he made, as though somehow undocumented migrants are just like less, like worthy of less or something. And if they were, they're you know, inferior somehow. And if they were all comprised in an area that like the economy would suffer, the counter to that was, if that was the case, California would suffer. And yet, judging by the same standard that Asmongold was presenting, California is not suffering, especially in terms of its economy. So then he turns around and goes, well, the GDP is a dumb metric anyway. Yeah, you're not wrong. In terms of analyzing whether or not people's material conditions are actually up to par, or if the quality of life is for the average person is good, GDP is not a very reliable metric. This is true. That's precisely the reason why you go to like average European cities and whatnot, and average European towns where the GDP is significantly lower than the United States.
Have to reattach it to make it look again.
States or poorest neighborhoods, and yet the quality of life is significantly better there. Or another example would be China for an even better comparison, right? Not the best metric. But the reason why it's even being discussed here is because you brought it up in your initial argument, only to turn around and now say, well, does your quality of life look better here than it did here? Did you have more purchasing power here than it did here? Yeah.
Oh, no, wait.
You're not wrong. What would happen to your quality of life if every single person that's like out there picking tomatoes that make its way into your ketchup that you're consuming, what would happen to your quality of life then? I don't think you'd be giving...
Oh, no, I have to raise it and then lower them both together. Okay, I get it.
You don't have, you know, ketchup to purchase. Except Asmongold is rich. He will still be able to purchase all of the goods that he wants to purchase at a much, much higher price point. His fan base, on the other hand, will not be able to, and they'll get increasingly...
Now I need the last year.
And they won't know why it happened, and they'll think, maybe we just didn't deport enough migrants.
Everybody's
nope.
That's because basing the GDP off of the human centipede of the 5 most valuable and most profitable tech companies in the country is not a very good indicator for where wealth and consolidation of resources actually is. What about the
kind of annoying having you do this 3 times? Like, I get like that's part of the puzzle is the year.
And the wealth growth
kind of annoying.
Top 1%. GDP is absolutely not a good indicator of what an average person's purchasing.
I hate that he uses, ironically enough, he uses a leftist assessment.
Yeah, exactly.
My talking point. He's using my talking points.
GDP is just following things like stock market, basically capitalist output. That's like what they're looking at. Like what defines capitalism. You need to constantly. GDP is like how much output you have, and if it's
do some research. Why would I need to do research? I already know it.
Has nothing to do with like
conclusions.
Yeah,
standard of living.
You see
cost of living, stuff like that for people.
School, and you see
how is that a good thing? 50 languages was a punishment from God in the Old Testament for people building the Tower of Babel too high to get to heaven. You're literally looking at an Old Testament punishment from a vengeful God on a fallen world, and you're saying that it's a good thing. Is this fat, bald retard serious? Oh my God. 50 languages? That sounds like chaos. Can you imagine that?
Is he signaling to be Christo-fascist? I don't know. Maybe if he does a God pivot, that'd be really funny. That would be awesome to see in 2026. Not only does he misunderstand the point of that story,
that sounds like an American thing.
The invention of different nations or the divide of humanity due to tribalism, which is of course where he readily engages.
Oh no, multiple languages.
Calling someone else bald as an insult. Oh yeah, this was the other thing I wanted to show you guys, by the way. Mr. Based over here did the classic, like, the most classic pro-Israel defense meme. All the Israel influencers have the same interest in Somali daycare centers in the same week, says Andrew Mercado, because it's correct. It is very strange that all of these guys that went to Israel, all of a sudden, in the wake of Israel becoming the first country to recognize Somaliland for their own personal ambitions in the Red Sea to counter the Ansar Allah movement.
Why wouldn't it just come, like, why wouldn't it have just come and gotten the fruit from over by, like, you know, the other door? Like, where it was. It was closer before. Why would it suddenly be like, oh, the fruit's in the trap?
They want to
Now I want it.
conquer that area to the best of their ability, so now they're betting on Somaliland, first country to recognize Somaliland. Day after
Maybe you can only smell the fruit if it's like below
propaganda comes
nose level or something. That's it.
Who were doing propaganda in Israel. Nick is not the only one. Cam Higby is another one. There's a bunch of these guys, right? Sure, maybe it's not. It's just a unique timing overall, okay? Unique timing overall. Maybe it's not on purpose, but it's a unique instance, all right? And he immediately goes, oh, you see Israel everywhere. Lol, this is stupid. But he's based, and don't forget, he's based, he's anti-Semitic, he loves when Nick Fuentes says Hitler is based. But then also, when someone actually correctly points to how strange it is that all of these pro-Israel influencers are now talking about, you know, Somali.
Oh, do I even need to do this now?
On the American welfare state and the American welfare.
For good measure, I guess. Hey, no, I don't have the gear anymore. Okay.
I think everything's Israel, bro. I'm based though. Yeah. No, it's normal. Last mayor of Gaza, Cam Higby, all these guys. What is this?
Fucking point and click game.
But I like the analysis.
Steal my gear.
Red Sea miscalculation with respect to Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity is already being discussed among regional leaders. Core geopolitical threat. It legitimizes and entrenches alternative governance structures in the Horn of Africa. Yeah, the number one thing is that every single African country is terrified of breakaway states.
Really, I guess it's technically point and click, right?
The reason why this has 6 likes.
I think I've got
6,000 likes.
How else would you?
Every single African country is terrified of breakaway states. That's literally the reason why they've been fine
like
with previous colonial boundaries that were set for them.
For a point, I have a point.
This will cause a lot of instability across the continent. Somalia views Israel's misadventures as existential threat. As a result, a new front of diplomatic warfare and potential proxy conflict, destabilizing the already fragile.
It'd be the right to keep.
Turkey, with its massive investments, that's the other reason. I've talked about this already. But another reason as to why Israel was doing the Somaliland recognition is because Turkey has a lot of investments in Somalia, and Israel's number one op is you know, aside from Palestinians in the region now, and aside from Iran, of course, is now Turkey. They put the crosshairs on Turkey. That's why you hear a lot of like you know, Turkey is our number one enemy now type coming from Israel. So you get to undermine a strategic partnership that already exists against another regional actor, and you get to lay ownership over the other side of the Red Sea in an effort to combat any sort of Yemeni intervention. Yeah, they also want to gain a foothold in the Horn to further destabilize or attack Yemen. Yes, 100%. Anyway, I'm not going to get too far into the Somaliland discourse. I'm just simply stating that they have their own personal desires in this recognition. And the timing of the anti-Somali sentiment that's been brewing.
I put it on the little thing.
Interesting. It's already been happening.
Guess not.
That's why I said it's a convergence. It's a convergence of different interests, right? Attacking migrant groups, attacking different migrant groups in an effort to shift the attention away from yourself or your personal ineptitude. That's obviously one of the reasons. And it's a tried and true technique for the administration. They did this with the Haitians during the election cycle when they said Haitians are eating cats and dogs, which is also bullshit. And on top of that, they always want to gut welfare programs anyway, so they can now use this as an opportunity to gut welfare programs. And, you know, these guys love fomenting hatred. The craziest part about it is that it's just like it was done in such a way. It was done in such a sloppy way.
Not really a vegan, but I was curious about this. Okay, really, I'm not a vegan.
Current Affairs. My name is Nathan Robinson. I am the editor-in-chief of Current Affairs
Not done anything to warrant being jabbed with this.
I am joined today by Professor John.
Any of these are gonna work.
He is a professor of philosophy at the Worcester Polytechnic Institute. He is the author of Postmodern Prince, and most recently, the book that we are here
probably doesn't take a square.
Today, The Omnivore's Deception.
I was hoping I could just stick the spear in it.
What we get wrong about meat, animals, and ourselves, available from New York University Press. Professor John Sunburn-Mansu, thank you so much for joining us here on Current Affairs.
I am delighted. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you were kind enough to, people might recognize your name if they're regular readers of Current Affairs, because you did, in fact, appear in the one of the most recent issues of our print magazine, which is our special Animals edition.
This must be one of the last things I do.
Will know that we often cover animal rights, animal welfare, but we actually put together an entire special issue, which everyone should check out. And we had in that 15 Q&As with people who approach animal welfare from lots of different angles, from people who do direct action, from people who, you know, have liberated mink from mink farms or rammed whaling ships, to people who are lawyers.
And back
so
at the
John
beginning,
the author of this,
it's
you know,
down
this
here.
powerful work of philosophy, where he's arguing about the kind of deep immorality, the need to confront the, you know, head on the full
can't be opened from this side. This is
the
technically
way
a Souls
that
board.
we treat animals. And I think
I'm a video
you know,
game
what you're
journalist.
doing here, is so necessary, so
It must open from the other side. They really had to include that. They really had to go all in, like, yep, yes, this is a Souls game now.
Deepest intuitions and their excuses, and you're telling them, no, actually,
I wonder if I could dig right here and crawl under as a kid. Girl.
Let's start here with,
Crawl under the
where
hole.
you start in the book. You start with a quote in your introduction, which is, "I tried vegetarianism once, not for the
can't
animals,
fit through.
for
I'm
the environment."
vegan fat.
Why did you choose that particular quote? That is something you've heard from people to begin your story with.
We often hear
A wall now.
questions of animal rights or the meat economy reduced to
Well, from the perspective.
sustainability, that discourse, which is, it's already the wrong starting point for what I describe in the book as a radical evil. And I literally have heard people say this for years, where people say, you know, well, I tried vegetarianism once for environmental reasons. And in fact, in the last 5 years or so, the press has been gleeful over the fact that many former vegetarians
That was a tight squeeze.
have been supposedly giving up their commitment to that now that they can have so-called clean meat or animal products from supposedly sustainable sources. Now that itself is a lie. There's no way to provide 8 billion human beings with animal products without destroying the means of life on this planet. But no one
For a while.
wants to confront the fundamental
Across
issue
the way.
of which is,
I think
first
it's
of
an
all,
old
the
torch
relation
wall.
of domination. We see
Wonder
ourselves
what
as
happened
a
to-
being who has a right, really a political right, to subordinate, exploit, and kill every other species. And secondly, and relatedly, the mass violence that is the underpinning of the thing. I mean, people who are otherwise nice, decent people are on board with a system of essentially universal genocide. Now, it's an analogy. We don't have a word for what we do to non-human animals, but that is basically what we're doing.
But it's peculiar, though, isn't it, in a way, because
Part of the sluice.
you made a very strong charge there that the average person is on board with a system of, you know, an indefensible system of mass killing that is a
I knew
gross
that
act
word and it
of
just occurred to me. I've never
immorality,
said it
as
out
you
loud.
refer to our treatment
Just
of
right.
non-human animals. But it would also be the case that most people wouldn't say that they oppose animal rights. They feel fondly towards the animals in their lives. They want,
I could hit it
as
with a
you kind of
hammer.
hint there, they want a way to have
Maybe if I were a big guy
and their meat at the same time. So tell us a little bit more about the kind of the
problem. This how it'll work.
The cognitive.
That's why they want me to
dissonance,
solve
the way
things.
People think about our relationships with animals.
They want me to stand on this and make
for 25 years, and you know, I've thought a lot about this question of what it means to be an ethical person.
We got the little girl over here.
I've also been very attentive since I teach undergraduates to the kind of contradictions that we live with. And I can't think, honestly, of another domain of moral life where we would accept opposite forms of behavior in our relations with others as equally valid import. And in the book, I give the example of shoving an elderly person down the stairs.
The ice is just gone. I can't smash it with the hammer.
Caring for an elderly parent, or child abuse being the same thing as raising a child.
Guess I'll just carry around some bricks.
If you open any newspaper, you're going to find these opposite behaviors profiled in terms of our relations with other animals, right? They're going to be
Possible reason why I would need these bricks more than any other one hanging around here, but carry them.
For their companion animals, and then there'll be a recipe for, pork or chicken or whatnot. And the thing is, there's not, as you know, there's no difference, ethically speaking, between a cow, chicken,
wait, what?
and a cat or a dog.
I sorely missed,
Or
but
these other
the
animals.
risks
You have a special connection.
didn't have gone into it.
So it's very bizarre, and I really think that this is the foundation of our identity as human beings, this irrational, contradictory way of treating the non-human other. And I think the last thing I'll just say is, and in my view, I'm thinking about this more and more, I think that the animal system and the way we relate to other beings in this way vitiates any claim that we might have to being moral beings. And, because there's thousands of years, right, of moral philosophy going back to Aristotle.
Oh, God.
Before. And, but if you take this issue seriously, as I think we all have to, then, you've got to wonder what it means to be a moral person in a context of radical evil, right? In which everybody participates in it.
I have to ask you to elaborate here a little bit, because you've made and you make in the book, you use terms that
This reminds me of
people to record
problem
at
that
first. I mean, in the
a lot of especially leftist people have veganism is the kind of equivalent, on the where it's no, I don't think you do a moral person. I just don't believe that. I'm sorry.
in the book, you talk about tolerance.
I feel like it's an oversimplification of morality. In my opinion, and I feel like you do have to recognize that there are kind of tiers to these things to a degree. At the end of the day,
down the stairs, and you said,
you're just not going to kill as you're not going to care as much about a chicken getting killed as a human being. And if you do, that's a sign something's wrong with you. Honestly.
So I mean, these are charges that are so strong and so at odds with what people think in their day-to-day lives that I'll ask you to let's defend the kind of central claim before we get into more of the delusion.
What did it say at the end?
Lay out the basic case that we are.
Well, it's run out halfway down.
Kind of
I can bring over the chain
through the way we treat animals.
Well, look, it was in 1871 that Darwin wrote *The Descent of Man*, and then he followed that up.
It's kind of like how I have a cat, so I have to give my obligate carnivore animal meat, and so I need to kill things to give my cat meat. Do I lose all claim to being a moral being because I participate in a society that allows are animal pets? I don't think so. I think it's more complicated than that.
Almost scientific evidence backing him up, especially in recent decades. We see that other animals are simply not these irrational, stupid, worthless beings. So that's number one, is that these other beings that we view in these kind of stereotype ways as crude, primitive, thoughtless beings
okay,
don't
let's
experience
I already know I can do it, so I'm just putting it off for no reason.
There's really nothing going on in terms of their existence. It's completely false. That's number one. And number two, the scale of what we do, the intensity, the ferocity of what we do to other animals really beggars description. And that's why, I and others reach for these analogies to
He looks like a ghost, but I can't run.
Well, although the slavery actually, it's not merely a metaphor. The fact is that historians believe that human slavery was modeled on and adopted ideological and technical aspects of the prior so-called domestication of animals in the Neolithic period, 10,000, 11,000 years ago. So if you look at the scale, and we're talking about 80 billion land animals every year.
That should work. Come on.
Are being killed every single year by our species. And then at sea, about 2 to 3 trillion marine
I could put the
whole
on, and then I could get it as the old guy.
Conscious life is being dragged out of the oceans and killed, right? Destroying the food.
Oh wait, that won't work well.
The web of life in
okay.
the oceans. And none of it is necessary. So that's why I think this is a particularly
I need Tov to be a little bit heavier. They want me to look around for a third rock, but I'm not.
This mess. Unjust violence.
It's interesting that what you say about slavery, because we do think of it as one of the worst things you can do to a person is to dehumanize them or to treat them as an animal. And then you think, well, but what about treating animals the way we treat animals? Is that not? And then we have to sort of that first thing that you mentioned, the inner life of the animal. We just have to set aside, right? You can't really treat that. And there was a recent article by.
I would like to get to a world where we just have like lab ground meat. I have no problem with that, to be honest. Like chemically identical. Like it has to be that good, basically. And I'm fine with plant alternatives. I think it's a different, like an overview of. They all make cuisine in general.
Following her interview with 60 Minutes, Marjorie Taylor Greene has released more information about what transpired between her and Donald Trump prior to her decision to exit Congress. She had a recent interview with the New
when
York
you get into the moral
Times,
weeds of it, I don't know if I agree with a lot of
details.
the, like some of the black and white.
You gotta see this. You gotta get into this. I was just so naive inside Marjorie Taylor Greene's break with Donald Trump.
That goes back
Let's go ahead and get
yeah.
into this interview here. I'm just gonna make this larger for everybody so you can read along with me. 11 days after Charlie Kirk was killed in September, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the third-term Georgia congresswoman, was watching his memorial service on TV as the luminaries of the conservative movement and Trump administration gathered to pay tribute to the young activist. What stayed with Greene long afterward were the last two
Wait, what happened? Sorry, I
on
wasn't
the stage. First was Kirk's widow, Erica, who stood in white before the crowd filling the Arizona stadium,
rusted.
lifted her
Maybe if I had one of those oily fruits.
Gave her husband's killer. And then there was President Trump. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great purpose, he said of Kirk. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. Now, we talked about that before also on the show. This is what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. That was absolutely the worst statement, Greene wrote to me in a text message months after the memorial service. And the contrast between Erica Kirk and the president was clarifying. She added, it just shows where his heart is, and that's the difference with her having a sincere Christian faith and proves that he does not have any faith.
I mean, it would like break the rust if it was
to add here. We have talked about
I can do something with
Erica Kirk as well on the show. I don't think Erica's really been
large
sincere at all. We've gone through all of that, but Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to think that at least what she said there that day was sincere. I think MTG has given Erica too much credit, to be honest with you. I don't trust Erica. I told you this days ago. I still don't. She comes across as
clean it off or
to me, especially when we talked about her background. She has not been honest about her prior relationship before Charlie Kirk. She's just told a lot of lies. So we've gone through all of that. But to get to the point that she said here about Donald Trump,
like us.
I thought it was just the Epstein controversy that started this rift for Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's not right. I know.
Interview, she apparently also took issue with the statement that he made at Charlie.
I didn't get a fruit from here today.
And let's continue
have an extra
on here
fruit
so you can
anywhere.
see what else she said. I think this is really important. It also, Greene said, clarified something about herself. Over the past 5 years as Trump's most notorious acolyte in Congress, she had adopted his unrepentant pugilism as her own. Our side has been trained by Donald Trump to never apologize and to never admit when you're wrong. You just keep pummeling your enemies no matter what. And as a Christian, I don't believe in doing that. I agree with Erica Kirk, who did the hardest thing possible and said it out loud. That statement there from Donald Trump, as I told you before, comes from Roy Cohen. Roy Cohen,
I remember what's in any of these places.
Describe as a possible mentor to Donald Trump, had that same type of philosophy. Don't apologize for anything. Just continue to call out your enemies and just say whatever you think is going to help that effort and to get the audience, the viewers, the people, the supporters to continue to side with you. And that's exactly what Donald Trump does. And now you hear Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's saying that he relayed that same message to them. This is a dangerous type of mindset. If you cannot admit that you were wrong, if you cannot apologize for anything, I'm looking at that as, I don't know, borderline narcissism. It seems like to me like that's narcissistic behavior, where it's everybody else is the problem. You have done nothing wrong. Greene's reaction put her in a distant minority among influential conservative figures. Almost immediately after Kirk was declared dead, many of her comrades on the right, the billionaire Elon Musk, the Fox News host Jesse Waters, the podcaster Steve Bannon, labeled the killing an act of war by the left and exhorted their audience to think in similar terms. But Greene, who for years took a back seat to no one when it came to reactionary rhetoric, going so far before she was in office to accuse Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, of treasonous conduct and adding that treason was punishable by imprisonment or death, realized that she had suddenly lost all appetite for vengeance. She later told a friend who confirmed the exchange, "After Charlie died, I realized that I am part of this toxic culture. I really started looking at my faith. I wanted to be more like Christ." So what this tells me is that apparently it got to a point, and that was the moment for her where things had just gone too far. Kudos to her for being able to admit that. And also notice she has no problem admitting that she was in the wrong. And that's where the difference is between her and Donald Trump. She voted along with him, I would say 99% of the time. But she's willing to admit, you know what, this isn't right. I was wrong. This is not the right way. Now, you know what happens when you start to do that and you're a part of this said, movement, you are seen as a problem. They don't want you to be a part of the movement. They want you out. They want you gone. And that's what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're criticizing Donald Trump. You got to go.
Really, I thought it was just purely the Epstein thing. I thought that was 100% just the deal breaker. That was it.
You did the big no-no, so we don't want to associate with you anymore. That was when the stress fracture that had been steadily widening between Greene and her political godfather became an irrevocable break. She had increasingly taken stands apart from the president and the Republican Party, declaring the war in Gaza a genocide, objecting to cryptocurrency and AI policies that, from her perspective, prioritize billionaire donors over working class Americans, criticizing the Trump administration for approving foreign student visas, for enacting tariffs that hurt businesses in her district, and for allowing Obamacare subsidies to expire. Most significant, she defied the president and complaint House Republican leaders as she argued that all investigative material pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein should be released. The Epstein files represent everything wrong with Washington, she said, rich, powerful elites doing horrible things and getting away with it. And women are the victims. Let's go on a little bit more here. As Green made her opinions known, first to Trump and to his team, then publicly, she tested the affection of a man who once said of her in a posted statement endorsing her re-election, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a warrior in Congress. She doesn't back down. She doesn't give up. And she has always been with Trump. She was one of the most vocal supporters of Donald Trump. And that's why I said her break away from him was very telling that things have changed. And yeah, we've seen podcasters have this split with Donald Trump, and we've seen podcasters call him out. But this was a politician.
Maybe it's this guy instead.
To the T that started to break away. I think what this showed me is that sometimes when we think the people who are less likely to be moved can possibly be moved on said issue. And for Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would have never expected that she would be one of those people. So sometimes you just never know. Let's continue on here. Now the cascade of perceived transgressions culminated in the president's tarring her as Marjorie Trader Greene in a social media post on November 15. 6 days later, she announced in a video that she would resign from Congress on January 5th, a year before her term ends. In early December, as she prepared to make her exit, I met Greene for the first two long interviews in which she was remarkably forthcoming about her frustrations with the president and his anger with her. So we're going to get into the Epstein part here. Greene had other reservations about the administration's agenda. While she initially supported Donald Trump's tariffs, she became fretful when carpet and flooring companies in her district said they were now less able to procure certain chemicals that were available only overseas. Remember I warned everybody about that? You guys remember? Okay. She complained that the hundreds of thousands of college student visas being issued by the administration to Chinese nationals gave them an unfair leg up on American students. And though Trump campaigned on ending transgender medical care for children, as president, she says he offered little support to Greene's bill, the Protect Children Innocence Act, which would do exactly that. Only when Greene threatened to oppose the continuing resolution in September to fund the government did the House Majority Leader Steve Scalise promised to bring her bill to the House floor in exchange for a vote. So she basically used some type of leverage there, right? Something that the Democrats are not willing to do for whatever reason. We've gone through that before.
You said it like Martin Scorsese.
Obstinance probably got under Trump's skin, Greene told me, but she then said it was Epstein. Epstein was everything. Listen to this. Trump indicated a willingness to release all the files pertaining to his former friend Epstein, who died in prison in 2019 while awaiting trial. Goes on to say here, the reason for her lack of concern. So this is a good question that the interviewer did ask her, you know, why weren't you concerned about the Epstein files and the Epstein victims during Trump's first term? She explains that here. She said to me, might seem improbable to anyone who is unfamiliar with how the mainstream press and the right-wing media cover the same story differently or not at all. The story to me was that I'd seen pictures of Epstein with all these people, and Trump is just one of several. And then for me, I'd seen Bill Clinton
that's not going to help anything.
Logs for his plane like 20-something times. So for people like me, it wasn't suspicious. And then we heard about the general stories of how Epstein used to be a member of Mar-a-Lago, but Trump kicked him out. Why would I think he did anything wrong, right? So this is the problem with corporate media and, of course, partisan politics. You have Fox News, which caters to the right. You have CNN and MS Now, apparently they are, that caters to what they consider to be the left. I don't consider it.
I'm done. I hate this game. I hate it.
But they cater to that side. if those networks weren't partisan, because they are, then maybe people could feel a little bit differently. Now, the people still belong to their respective parties, and a lot of times people are party loyalists and they're going to back them and defend them no matter what. But it doesn't help when corporate media is also doing the same thing. So if Fox News wasn't partisan, and if CNN and MS Now were not partisan, maybe people would feel a little bit differently. But when you have corporate media egging it along and just confirming that your right to defend your party, most people are not going to look elsewhere. And I've been seeing that for years. Everyone doesn't watch independent media. In fact, you know, a lot of the older voters, the numbers show that they don't. But I see more people moving over towards the independent media space. And, you know, okay, I'm going to start listening to something else now.
Oh, well, that one's not attached to anything. That's probably the problem.
News, if you only watch CNN and MS Now, that's all you know.
But this one's still rusted.
And to go along with that, she was a part of the MAGA movement, and she's a politician. So there's that. Now, when people say, well, Sabs, well, then what does that mean about members of the squad? Well, with the squad, it was different because I was first introduced to members of what would be the squad through independent media. I saw AOC on independent media. I saw Cori Bush on independent media. Ayanna Pressley, I already knew about because I live here, and she was already representing Boston in city council before she ran for Congress. But that's the big difference. It was independent media that I saw that was promoting the squad and Bernie Sanders at that point in time. So I think this is where corporate media has a responsibility, and they're not doing that responsibility. But at least she's willing to admit she was wrong. And I think that's what really stands out to me here. It's like, people are like, well, she went along with this for so long. And I get it. I totally get it. But at least she's willing to admit she's wrong. And of course, maybe she does have political aspirations somewhere down the road. I don't know. But I would also say going against Donald Trump, and if you do have political aspirations elsewhere, I'm not sure that would help you at this point in time. Not if you're a part of the Republican Party. Goes on to say here, for Green, the decades that Epstein spent eluding justice for exploiting and sexually assaulting countless girls and young women while amassing a fortune, and the seeming efforts by the government to cover up the injustice represents everything wrong with Washington. This September, Green spoke with several of Epstein's victims for the first time in a closed-door House Oversight Committee meeting. She knew that the women had paid their own way to come to Washington. She saw some of them trembling and crying as they spoke. Their accounts struck her as entirely believable. Green herself had never been sexually abused, but she knew women who had. In her own small way, Green later told me she could understand what it was like for a woman to stand up to a powerful man. It says here, am I going to get murdered or one of my kids because he's calling me a traitor? We'll go on a little bit more here as well. And this is where I shake my head at someone like Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace made it very well known that she had been a victim of sexual assault. And she basically used that as her reasoning to be against the transgender bathrooms. Now, whatever people's belief on that, it is what it is. We have here in Massachusetts and the Boston area, there's a number of businesses that have all gender restrooms and their individual like stalls and all this kind of stuff. But I know some people don't feel comfortable with that because they have been victims of sexual abuse. So I understand that as well. But for someone like Nancy Mace, who spoke about what she went through and was able to use that to play into the culture war, it's very telling and very interesting to me that Nancy Mace did not join along MTG, Thomas Massey, and Ro Khanna to release these Epstein files. So that right there told me everything I needed to know about Nancy Mace, that she was just willing to tote the party line, and all these, the vocalness that she had about what happened to her and protecting women, all of a sudden she wasn't willing to be vocal anymore because it could implicate people in her own party. And people need to pay attention to things like that. Let's get into what else Donald Trump told her, because everything wasn't revealed in that 60 minutes interview. So after the hearing, Green held a news conference at which she threatened to identify some of the men who had abused some of the women. Trump called Green to voice his displeasure. Green was in her Capitol Hill office, and according to a staff member, everyone in the suite of rooms could hear him.
I don't care that. I've watched way too much of that now. Jesus Christ. Like, the Epstein stuff matters. I don't really care. I think, like, she's that big of a piece of the puzzle.
So let's go ahead and talk about this Minnesota Somali scandal, fraud, whatever you want to call it. Let me get this out the way, because I don't want people to try to manipulate anything that I say in regarding to what I'm going to say in a few minutes here. One, crime and theft and anything in between is bad. I would never advocate, I would never tell people that they need to commit crimes, they need to steal from any measure. Even if you're poor, I understand the urgency sometimes, but if you cannot not do that, that'd be amazing. I've been there myself. I've been in need, and I could have took the easy way, stolen, sold drugs, X, Y, and Z, but I chose not to. So I would never advocate for people to do crime. But here's a but, okay? And I need people to understand this but here. When it comes to our justice system, we already know it disproportionately punishes the poor, the least of these,
okay,
the normal people.
I've watched so much stuff. Damn, is this really old?
Welcome, Left Reckoning patrons. I'm Matt Leck. With me is David Griscom. David, hello.
What's up, brother?
Not a whole lot.
I was like, what the fuck?
Returning on our Mark's reading series.
I'm fine with that.
I meant to do the math of what today's date is in that sort of sort of revolutionary calendar in France, but we're doing.
I'm fine with watching something old, not the hair thing.
Napoleon. That is, it's a very interesting text. We'll have a sort of a clip to contextualize it with regards to the Communist Manifesto, but just some little calendar info. That is the second.
I'm free bet.
That is the 18th of Brumaire, and
not very talkative.
They put in a new calendar under Napoleon to you know, break with the past. We forget that now, but or it's forgotten now. But yeah, that's where
I don't have a shovel anymore.
Basically, exclusively. I don't hear a lot of reference to that besides that. Yeah, there's some other historical. So yeah, why that date is significant. The 2nd of December, the 18th of Brumaire, that is the date that Napoleon crowned himself emperor in 1804, and then a year later, on the same day, defeated the sort of, I mean, for the Holy Roman Empire ended it as a result of the Napoleon winning at Austerlitz, is my understanding. And just a note for folks.
Oh, the magic's here? No medal?
Two reasons. One is this sort of historical info, which, you know, nerds like David and I do enjoy up to an extent, but also this is interesting for the application of sort of class and materialist theory to history and politics. Politics as it's actively going on. As we said, like Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto at the start of the sort of 1848 to 1851 revolutionary period, and this is sort of a sort of reflection on that. And to make that point even clearer, Vijay Prasad, and I'll link this in the show notes, but Vijay Prasad had a talk with Ijaz Ahmad on this, and Ahmad puts it this way.
Shut up and...
In my view, there is a very interesting relation between the Communist Manifesto and the 18th Brumaire. 18th Brumaire is more or less a sort of counterpoint to the Great Manifesto. Manifesto comes in expectation of the revolution. And indeed, the revolution of 1848 breaks out within weeks of in fact, the publication of the manifesto, in fact, more or less coincides with the outbreak of the Paris Revolution, which then extends to large parts of Europe.
Get it with these weird birds. I feel like the oil, like, I have a rusty gear, the fruit said oil. Like, every time you look at the fruit, it said oil. Like, that feels like that's associated.
Looking back from the beginning of the revolution to the completion of the counter-revolution.
And we'll stop it there. The counter-revolution being Louis Napoleon, the originals.
I keep thinking it's going to pick up the...
basically a coup, crowning himself emperor again after he had already served a term as he was voted into office as president. And so,
anything I can do?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
No, I'm saying, and like voted into office was like, you know, somewhat close to like universal suffrage, right?
Miles?
You know, like the history here. I mean, like this is a tough text for a lot of reasons, and I think one of the reasons it is tough, and I'm not the only one who says this, is that it is very much about like recent events in France that there's sort of an understanding that the reader is like very familiar with. So it's one of those things that like reading in 2023 can be a little bit difficult just because, you know, he's referencing all these different events and figures who you may have like a general understanding of or not know who they are at all. But like, yeah, effectively, like what this text is about this thing that opened up.
What to do? Like I have to crawl out the other way. That's kind of lame.
Revolution, new movement that then slid into counter-revolution.
I'm falling into the fucking accent way too. Like way too.
That's really interesting.
It's not even good. It's not a good accent. I know that.
To a lot of Marx's other texts, is that like this is one of the more explicit times that Marx like deals with the state and what the state is, the different class politics, and like how they're sort of playing out on the national scene. Obviously, Marx wrote a lot about politics in his time, but you know he wasn't ever able to get to like the state in the same way that he was able to get to capital. And like there's, you know, all this talk that Marx's intention was to write capital and then to write the state, right? There was supposed to be a Marxist take on this that was official. Obviously capital isn't even finished in its lifetime.
Sorry about your hand.
You know, isn't completed either. And you know, the state becomes a question that a lot of Marxists spend a lot of time over the next 100 years sort of looking at. You know, obviously people like Rosa, people like Lenin, Poulantzas, people more contemporarily like Leo Panitch, right? Like this question of the state starts to become like a very important question of Marxism, because in the theory of Marxism as sort of laid out by Marx, it's not as developed as like, you know, theories of exploitation under capitalism. So the 18th Brumaire, I think like beyond it's like how interesting it is, and it's like a really fun like thing about it is, like, whenever I say that it's difficult, right, I don't want to dissuade people from reading it because while it's difficult because you're having to, you know, keep some history in your head, like the
missing
text is
something.
incredibly flowery and fun and punchy, and it really
Wait,
is masterful.
I see something right there.
Essay.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say on that note, like that's
it was my footstep
got me into Marx because of, you know, like Marx is challenging in different ways in different texts. Like Capital is, especially the opening of Capital is challenging for an entirely different type of way it makes your brain work.
Yeah.
And this one.
That's the way Accumulation of Capital is too.
Sort
by
of
Rosa Luxemburg.
This is more political and historical, but that's like, you know, more my speed. And so that's why
it's like going into like the
into say like
economic detail,
YouTube and that sort of stuff, and
like the relations of production,
sort of stuff. I think
constant capital, variable capital, all that shit. Like a completely different thing than like historical analysis.
I think thinking it through this way
of like class struggle.
Class struggle is
hey, whoa.
if you are going to pay attention to the sort of like what's going on with the state and different sort of factions throughout, like say a coronavirus pandemic or something like that.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, I mean, like the only thing you know, just to finish the thought there,
see if there's something over there.
Is that like this text becomes like a touchstone for a lot of people later, to sort of try to tease out.
I haven't climbed up there in a bit. I'll try that again too.
Materialism and his theory of the state and its relationship with capital.
I need to start trying ways that I've
really
been down before.
Text and like stoked to be doing it. This is probably one of the more intimidating ones I feel like we've done. We've done like Rosa was long, but Rosa, I don't know. This one I've been nervous about recording this, so I'm like very.
I looked through there as him.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with the people over at Socialism for All have a good audiobook reading with an occasional aside commentary, such as like at the part at the end of this first section here when Marx says every sort of like reform effort gets denounced as socialism. The author cuts in there. You want to say something there?
Well, I mean, actually, like, so we're gonna
go more
explicitly as we go on, but like, all right, for like the most general audience, like, if you're unfamiliar with this like history at all,
get down.
Like, like I'm gonna do this like as broad based as possible.
Right.
Effectively, you have like this early revolution that sort of pushes out the monarchy, this provisional government that like seems to be very progressive. A lot of conflict within that. Napoleon's nephew is able to win power during that period, you know, and like Marx talks about him, you know, in a very insulting way because the guy was a real doofus and was not some kind of like leader of any kind of revolutionary progressive cause, but much more of a backslide into reaction. But he wins this with, you know, by winning popular elections. And then as his sort of term in power is sort of coming to its end, instead of, you know, some kind of transfer back to maybe a representative more of like the liberal intelligentsia class or something like that, they just do a coup and he becomes emperor, right?
Yeah.
So these are the three. This is like a very quick version of it, but like this is what the reaction is too. It's like this opening that seems like it's revolutionary, political crisis as that's going on. A buffoon basically becomes in charge of the state, and then the reforms and the victories, the democratic reforms, start to evaporate very, very quickly, and the return to an empire in France.
Exactly.
A giant paw print.
Exactly. So like when Marx at the very beginning of this, there's the tragedy and farce line. The tragedy is the Napoleon original case, and the farce is his nephew coming around and, you know, farting around and still, and like, you know, the Napoleon original thing, and this is a point Matt Crispin makes in Age of Napoleon, but like he's supposed to symbolize meritocracy, right? Like if it's not God who is ordaining our rulers,
blood on the ground,
and all this stuff,
some strange oily seeds. Oh, so it's not the fruit.
You know, like the farce.
Oh yeah, the oily fruit. Oh my god, I was supposed to find this like
So yeah, we'll start in here with this.
Folks, the
we're
fruit
not
is
going to do each of these chapters word for word here, but we will do this opening here, and we'll start.
Now everything is
the reading by the folks at Socialism for All.
All right, so let's begin chapter 1.
Oh my god, I think I've solved the puzzle. I think
1848 to December 1851. Hegel remarks somewhere that all great world historic facts and personages appear, so to speak, twice. He forgot to add the first time as tragedy, the second time as farce. Cossadière for Danton, Louis Blanc for Robespierre, the Montagne of 1848 to 1851 for the Montagne of 1793 to 1795, the nephew for the uncle.
And again, like those figures are just figures from the original French Revolution and the mid.
Okay, so wait,
19th century,
what's the point of this?
Period we're talking about now.
Again,
the same
this is
caricature occurs
I thought this would be.
circumstances of the second edition of the.
I don't really care about parsing through the historical events that were happening at the time.
Not make it as they please.
Just like a general historical
self-selected circumstances, but under
not really,
existing already.
I don't know the purpose of
and transmitted from the past.
Now, this is the Marxist.org translation of this. The run that I'm familiar with is the one that I think you've mentioned, David. The men make their own history, but they don't make it out of whole cloth. Is that metaphor just taken out, or does that appear later in the book?
You know, I'd have to see. I was reading, so we were reading the same one. I'd have to check my Marx and Engels reader to see.
I hope that's still in there somewhere, because I do like the whole cloth thing. Like, you're making it with.
I really didn't need to do that. I should put it back
over instead of like fresh from the.
Oh, look at that! It's
yeah.
The tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living, and just as they seem to be occupied with revolutionizing themselves and things, creating something that did not exist before, precisely in such epochs of revolutionary crisis, they anxiously conjure up the spirits of the past to their service, borrowing from them names, battle slogans, and costumes, in order to present this new scene in world history in time-honored disguise and borrowed language. Thus, Luther put on the mask of the Apostle Paul. The revolution of 1789 to 1814 draped itself alternately in the guise of the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. And the revolution of 1848 knew nothing better to do than to parody, now 1789, now the revolutionary tradition of 1793 to 95. In like manner, the beginner who has learned a new language always translates it back into his mother tongue, but he assimilates the spirit of the new language and expresses himself freely in it, only when he moves in it without recalling the old, and when he forgets his native tongue.
Wait, are they just reacting to like advice? Because I don't really care about this.
I should just let you do that.
No, that's cool.
Opera updated the driving me insane. Every time I want to change tabs, it just like fucking emoji.
Was she trying to get? She was trying to get white women that are wealthy. Because do people that are out there working a couple jobs, do they know who Liz Cheney is?
But let's move on to, our guest specialty of the day. Gay news. It's gay. Woo! What's going on in the world of gay stuff?
Yes. Wait, what does the gay mean down accomplish?
Okay. And in the world of gay news, there is no better gay news this week than the Senate ass fucking conundrum, or not conundrum. I would say I'll call it a kerfuffle.
Let's watch the language, Will. Let's call it. It's man on man love in my book. Okay.
We worked hard to reclaim that word of conundrum.
Yeah. Okay. I should say a former staffer for Ben Cardin, video of him engaging in intercourse with a male lover It was posted on some sort of Slack or sort of Discord group for gay people in Washington, D.C., and the Daily Caller...
Large Penis Support Group is the name of the group. It's a gay forum where...
Wait, are you serious? Oh my god.
Hot guy on Instagram. And
that was just like a joke.
Leaked cock pics. You just go to Large Penis Support Group, and you can find leaked nudes of many, many people on there. So I think that's where it came from.
You know this from experience?
Yeah, of course. And I think that it was from the bottom. It was posted to a close friend story of his, I believe. A picture of him with his ass up. on the table.
I didn't even know you could post stuff like that to Instagram. Like, we've gotten the Seeking Derangements account suspended for
You definitely can't. I think he may have done the classic gay bottom move of putting a little peach emoji over his hole.
There's some strange magic here, no doubt.
It's such a crazy thing that they
all the
do
clips
on
I've seen on the so-called free speech Daily Caller have been heavily redacted.
I totally thought this was a dead dad game, and he's totally not dead. I'm a little disappointed.
What to know about Washington's scandal over sex in a Senate hearing room? Capitol Hill was rocked over the weekend by circulation of an explicit video of two men apparently having sex in a congressional
I should climb down on the...
The second pornographic clip
being stupid.
Friday evening by a right-wing media site, the Daily Caller, was reportedly leaked from a private group for gay men in politics. The report, which did not name the participants and blurred a face that appeared in the video, claimed it was a congressional staffer in the sex tape, identified the setting as room 216 in the Hart Senate office building.
It would be so funny to be like one of the like really old senators and just be like, oh man, that's where I sit. God damn it.
Okay. There is actually reporting about who sits.
No.
You ready for this?
Check. Make sure there's nothing for the... Oh. God, it's loud, isn't it?
Where Senator Amy Klobuchar sits in the hearing room in question.
No, for real? She hates gay men even more now. Oh my god. That's so funny it was her. No, she hates gay men. She fucking
Ben
hates
bullied
me
her
so much. She hates me. She definitely does not like me.
Yeah.
I will take this time to say that as a disgraced gay politico myself, I do send my absolute support to this bottom. He did nothing wrong. And honestly, you're probably better off not working in politics. This guy clearly needs to start an OnlyFans, start a podcast, or something else.
No, maybe not a podcast.
Well, this place is dark.
Can't
see a thing.
Yeah, but I think like once you start taking videos of yourself like fucking on your boss's desk, like that's basically a resignation letter. Like you know that.
Yeah.
Gonna
He posted I think he posted on Facebook and said something like, "I'm being attacked simply for who I choose
there's
to
a
love."
file.
No, it's really more where you choose to love them. But you know what? I gotta say, I have nothing but respect for this young man. I mean, because our hallowed Senate, you know, I mean, like, just fucking someone on Amy Klobuchar's chair is really funny to me. And you know what? For anyone under the age of 70 in politics right now, get out. It's a dead end. You're not going to do anything good. Whatever you imagined politics is going to be like for you, it's not going to
change
work.
diapers eventually.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like them doing this like while John Fetterman is there. Just like
I'm just sitting at a desk.
He's like, wait, has that always been there?
It smells like the bathroom in here. What the heck?
The headlines for this kept cracking me the fuck up because
Sitting on a bench. I'm just John Fetterman sitting here. And slash.
Really running with it. They kept because they were trying to sensationalize this as much as possible.
Wait, what? What did it say? Sorry.
That it was gay sex with
Totally.
men happening, but I'm like, it's kind of totally redundant when the accompanying picture to the audio or to the article is literally butt fucking. Like it's already so scandalous that you don't need to be like, yeah.
To chop through it now. There you go. Oh, I'm going to chop away those vines over the old guy that I've got to plant. Yeah.
Like readers, so that they don't like before they put on.
Now I have an axe.
To read the headlines, so they don't look at the blurry picture and be like, "Oh, good for him. I'd like to tap that as well." Like, no.
I keep thinking about like going back and like talking to Harvey Milk, just like telling Harvey Milk like, "Girl, you have no clue what you're fighting for right now. Like, you don't think gay men can be in politics? We're fucking in legislative buildings in 2020."
Oh, I can climb up there though. I need to let in fish.
The thing I like about like
Little fish hook
trying to make this
thing.
scandal is like, okay, with Hunter Biden, you know, they were just showing everyone his cock and shit, but they're
Going to pick it with.
He was doing other weird shit. He was doing like corrupt business deals,
Okay,
and
fine.
shit like that. But this is literally just two gay guys having sex. And they're just posting it everywhere. They're like, look how gross it is. And it's like, okay, like what am I?
The door upstairs. Does he mean that door? The one that's right there?
Well, it's not just Amy Klobuchar's seat here. I like the timing.
I like a problem with the writing.
It sits. Her seat sits in a. It's not just the seat, but the hero.
Didn't realize how they would design the game.
A room that has also hosted the 9/11.
Board is loose.
Former FBI Director James Comey is.
Oh, okay.
Donald Trump in 2017.
Silva needs to attach the fish hook to his.
Supreme Court nominees, including Sonia Sotomayor, Brett Kavanaugh. Representative Mike Collins, Republican of Georgia, posted a photo of cleaning wipes at a grocery store with the caption, "Christmas shopping for Senator Klobuchar." I mean, like, if you're a Republican politician or in the right-wing media, I mean, like, how many variations of the joke I've seen over the last 24 hours of the they're only doing to each other what they're doing to us every day, right?
yeah. I like going back to John Fetterman being in the room. I like to picture him like being in the room and seeing it, but also like Philip K. Dick when he's
like a rope or something.
Rome superimposed over like.
He got hit with a pink light.
Yeah, he just sees the 9/11 commission hearings like superimposed over the two gay guys fucking.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of Rome, this guy, they may just be
Going to leave my dad there holding that shit, holding it up. The work.
Principles of getting butt fucked where you write laws. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I can't go in there. Fuck.
Roman Senate.
Classic Roman move.
All of our founding fathers had a fetish for the Roman system of government. I think they should take it one step further. I mean, there's one last little thing here. One last.
Would it be a rope?
Quote from in the
string.
Madison Cawthorn, a former congressional staffer turned one-term congressman who alleged in 2022.
His name sounds like a gay porn site.
Before he lost his re-election bid, that Washington is rife with sexual perversion. He posted on Twitter, "I told you." He was the one doing it. He's like, I told you, everyone. I told you what I was up to.
That was like when they like really needed to get rid of him, and they called up like Ed Meese or like James Baker, one of like the true hitters, like one of the Reagan, Iran-Contra, like real shooters who could really get dirt on someone. They
okay, I know I need a string, right?
Of him raping his cousin
in the mouth. Yeah.
And it's like, if I was him, I would stay as far away from this as possible.
I really don't want to remind
people had already forgotten that he'd done that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering, Ben and Hessa, I'm wondering if you, I saw there's another very intriguing sort of layer to this story, where I saw someone share.
Maybe there's like some shit that's not
probably like a close friend.
Shadow, like it looks weird.
Staffer in question, who alluded to the fact that his partner in this tryst was a German man, and he said something to the effect of getting some German sausage in the Senate hearing building, and I'm more disturbed by the.
Still can't get past this. What
anal penetration, but by the German penetration of our government buildings.
Yes, I would say that like it's probably. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Ben? What do you think?
I think it adds up. I think it adds up. I mean, German people are renownedly sexual freaks, and once one of them is gay, doubly so. It makes sense that they're trying to fuck in the Senate,
Yeah, we need to send an agent into their halls of power and find a little German twink that we can. Yeah. We gotta find a way to get them.
You can send me over there. I'll do my best, guys.
Yeah. Oh my God, we gotta
prowl around the Senate buildings a little bit.
Yeah, parachute you in like you're the first airborne, just like
Operation Market Garden.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know
okay.
Why the German guy was involved? Like, it just it seems like in Germany they probably have a special day where you can do this in the Bundestag.
There's a special Scheisse room in the German parliament.
Yeah,
where you can if the bouncer lets you into the Parliament building, first of all, then
it's really hard to get in.
He's very strict.
You need to know every legislator. If you don't know them by name, they're like, this norm is not good.
Exactly. He's not wearing the cool. I mean, like, I guarantee you that whatever
judge's robes.
Oh, I was right. Oh my god, I'm right. It's a part of the puzzle. That it's kind of blocked off. You're not supposed to be able to see what's down there. Okay, I'm right.
I mean, you'd be bounced at the door immediately. Keep that shit locked down.
I'm not right. No, I am right. I'm right. Oh my god, I'm right.
Yeah, the other gay guys fucking
A little bit of string.
The government room are gonna like roll their eyes so hard at you. Pull out your phone to post a story.
It's a journal.
Some Republican
journal piece.
Separately, Representative Max Miller, Republican of Ohio, told the Daily Caller that the man in question had accosted him earlier in the week, shouting "Free Palestine" while Miller was being interviewed by NBC. The Senate staffer in question is not.
Oh, what love these?
But I just like that
About fish face.
Everything in here, it's like.
That's going.
River to the sea,
A journal. Oh, he has a journal too.
I would never say that.
I just saw so many right-wing guys on Twitter posting like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen." I'm like, well, why are you watching that? Like, you're watching two guys fuck right now. Like, you chose. What did you think this video was going to be? You know? I was disgusted for the whole 5 minutes of watching this video. Brightness up.
I watched all 6.
Yeah, I can't believe I called how this puzzle mechanic worked. That was pretty cool.
I don't know. I think I like the ones that are trying to pretend like they're not disgusted by the sex act. They're disgusted about like the desecration of our beautiful Senate building and what it represents. And it was just like, in that same
pile of junk.
Like, I don't know, rush through authorization to sell another 50,000 rounds of white phosphorus shells to Israel. And then, like, wouldn't want anything disgracing that august deliberative body.
I did see some of these guys draw an equivalency between this
Oh?
and January 6th. Like, they're like,
I didn't even do that. Fuck.
I wish January 6th had been that cool. Are you kidding me?
It's just so funny. It's just so funny to think about. Like, this is the Democrats' version of that. Like, there's just there's no like, there's no goal. There's no plan to like get the speaker to overturn
The ball of twine still strong. Okay, no.
We're gonna go in there and just give the craziest.
I think that's the last one, right?
Ever. 2 feet
Of the boards.
Sure, eats a cozy salad. So
I did see someone say, "This is what they do in the same place they shot Ashley Babbitt."
Wait, did I do this one?
I mean, like,
Oh, another chest. Wow. Going to have nothing in it.
They were like kind of expecting these guys to get shot, or they were like Roger, they're engaged in copulation. Take the shot. Over.
Has Amy made a statement?
It's an old torch.
What Amy's got to say about this, because she does hate gay guys, and I know this because I think her origin here is because her prom date came out as gay after they went to prom together. She gave an interview once, and she was like, "Yeah, my prom date was gay. Didn't know it at the time. Found out shortly after."
Usually, the second he saw me naked, he said, "I think I'm gay."
Yeah.
That, like, I mean, talk about like indoctrinating the youth into homosexuality, sending them on a date with Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
Maybe the Republicans have a point.
There's a couple of things going on that we haven't really paid that much attention to, but actually have, like, probably will have material import down the road. And that is the sort of both simultaneous implosion of some right-wing talkers' audience and an incredible amount of infighting that is going on that I think will ultimately be pretty consequential. at least for the near term.
Yeah.
I almost don't know where to start with this. You first had a lot of like right-wing dissent around Israel. On one side, you had the principal anti-Semites who and American firsters. I don't know that there's really a huge gulf between those two people.
No.
But they did not like our involvement with Israel. So sometimes good things can come from bad places.
They're basically Christian nationalists.
Yes.
It's Nick Fuentes, it's Candace Owens.
But the non-Kufi Christian nationalists.
Yes.
And I guess like, and they started to attack people like Ben Shapiro, who Ben Shapiro trying to be an American firster, but also tied for first with Israel.
Yes, well, I don't even know if he'd say tied, but we can quibble with that. But it is interesting, like, I mean, Ben Shapiro was so cool with Candace Owens' open anti-Semitism when she was employed at the Daily Wire.
Hitler apology.
She literally said, while at the Daily Wire, that Hitler's problem was not that he kept it confined to Germany, but that he had expansionist aims, and he wasn't Germany first.
Okay.
There were Jewish Germans who...
You know, the thing is, she says that, and like, more and more I'm starting to think that, like,
held onto her
he's right as far as, like, the rest of the world would not have intervened
Kanye was going out there. She was
if Hitler like had not invaded other countries. It would have been kind of like Israel, where everybody would just watch from afar. I mean, even back then though, they wouldn't even know. Maybe we wouldn't even fucking.
Hitler that was positive, but it was open Hitler apologia. Yes.
But basically, if he hadn't been invading everybody nearby, people might have just sat back and watched him genocide like every Jew in Germany.
Like anti-Semitic statement.
No undesirable group.
And Shapiro had her on until she was speaking.
We didn't go to war with Hitler persecuting Jews. That's what I'm getting at.
And that has morphed in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination into some like swirling conspiracy theories that started.
Or killing Jews, like as far as I know, right? Like we didn't even know the full extent of what was going on until we literally found like the camps and shit.
Charlie Kirk was turning on Israel, which is quite unclear that that was the case.
No, he just wanted to still have Tucker Carlson come to TPUSA events. That's all it was.
Yes, yeah. And we should say, like, he wrote some text, I think to Candace Owens or to somebody 2 days before he was assassinated that indicated that maybe he was going to turn against Israel or he wasn't going to take, but presumably Israel had been planning months before this assassination. And, you know, there's a lot of people that had to be paid out. But then...
I can't reach it?
The conspiracy theories...
I need to be, like, in the center?
I'm not in any position to judge, really, like, and I haven't really followed it, but it's involved other TPUSA individuals that Candace Owens has been pushing, saying that, you know, that they were all sort of conspired against it, and now they're addressing Candace Owens, and you should just know that Shapiro's show's numbers have cratered.
Yep.
Charlie Kirk's show's numbers have cratered, and everybody seems to be lining up on one side or the other of this.
Okay, I don't know what I'm doing.
Peacemakers in between.
Oh, I need to make a fishing pole.
PBD trying to be a peacemaker. Now remember, the last time we checked on Patrick Bet-David, he had
That's a tricky way to use the spear, if I don't need to spear.
With Israel's
do the roast
PR problems for committing a genocide, to allow some of Israel's comedic criticizers to do a roast with Benjamin Netanyahu for like 2 or 3 years.
Let's throw this out once and for all.
Yeah, Tom Brady style roast. Just give it to him.
We only roast the ones we love.
Yes, let a little air out of the tires, I guess, as they would say.
We used to have Nuremberg, now we have Netflix.
Now, and now, of course, Israel is still in hot water because
Looks
they
like
did
you
not
gave my
subscribe to, they didn't take his advice. But now Patrick Bet-David is going to talk about like what's going on with TPUSA. Invited Candace Owens on for a debate. She will not go there because
I can't get up there.
she's being assassinated, and she thinks that Erica was behind it. And
Oh, it looks like there's torch holders in here. Got the few those in my inventory.
He seems to have a pretty poor relationship with his wife.
You know, it happens.
Sometimes.
It happens. Your best friend.
Another one?
You know, and
Words of my favorite DJ.
But then the things get a little bit weirder too after this.
For you, go there.
Oh wait, no, he's he doesn't talk about Palestine. I don't know if he's not like against Palestine. DJ Khaled.
If this is like
He just doesn't
like,
doubt about it.
Go with the Macron story, right? Go with the Macron story. Tom, what is that? Does that have to do with the story or?
No, I was just
okay. So go with
Oh, I understand.
So with the Macron
The right torch into the right slot, and then it'll open the right door. So this one must go.
What happened was
Maybe.
Tom's putting something else up there.
This one has one scratch mark.
And that happens here. Sometimes you get a little distracted. But he is now saying that just to be clear,
Yeah.
someone's afraid to go to TPUSA.
Kind of a simple way to solve it, but that's fine.
Or onto the Charlie Kirk show because she's nervous about. And I don't know that I would go into their lair. I don't know.
Do a remote.
Here is Patrick Bet-David. Is
Nothing happened, so wrong, unless I need to like.
Just focus on the Macron story. The Macron story, incidentally, is that Candace Owens is convinced that Macron's wife is actually
Spark onto them.
a trans woman, and they're suing her, I believe.
I feel like something was supposed to happen.
Right, that is insistent about this conspiracy theory in a way that where it's
The
like
number one. Wait. Oh, hello. No, I'm going way off the accent there.
Of a character, even Ben Shapiro plays it up because they're so cynical. She's genuinely insane.
Rogan believes it, by the way.
Oh, Rogan does.
Oh, there's
Oh.
something. There is a lot of people who believe what Candace Owens. There's a lot of people. Because she's onto something.
But okay, fair enough. In right-wing media, it feels like this is her flag that she's planted. It's a little insane.
It's been helping her numbers significantly.
And it's clear why PBD would want her to focus on that instead of the infighting on the right.
Here we go.
The Macron story. Tom, what is that? Does that have to do with the story or?
They need to be.
No, I was just.
Okay, so go with the Macron story. So with the Macron story, there's a part of that you're.
Oh wait, it might be a little bit more.
Right? Where it's like, I want to know. Okay, let's keep going. I want to know what's going on, how this thing's gonna end. But with the Turning Point USA guys, I don't know if you really. You realize, like, without TPUSA, Trump doesn't win.
Oh, maybe it is. Oh, never mind.
Forget about all this feud and oh my God and what's going on and I think I'm on her side, I'm on their side. It's not she's this, she's a Scotch. Set all that stuff aside. If there's no Turning Point USA,
Over.
Trump does not.
I'm up now to the torch room.
Perfect. If I'm the Democrats, if I'm Qatar, if I'm anybody that wants Democrats back in, dude, I have to dismantle.
They're an air guitar.
And she's helping in that process.
Air guitar.
Can you pause it for a
Now
sec?
what?
So I just am trying to like put little just breadcrumbs here because we mentioned this in the Tim Pool segment last week about his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu and then in that meeting I think it was Jewish Insider reported that he asked him about Qatar's influence on the internet space and how it's making essentially kids into radicals against Israel is the thrust of it.
Buying creators, I mean, is the implication.
There's just something to note about the focus on Qatar when it comes up completely in a way that makes very little sense when the subject of Israel comes up. And I just think people should flag that when they see some of these creators bring it up out of nowhere, because that's a Zionist talking point.
But what's happening also right now is Tucker Carlson went to Qatar and interviewed, I don't know what Qatari
Prime Minister, I think.
The Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And so this is all part of this like interacine war. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. And what I love, Patrick Bet David, like this guy's giving a lot of advice to people. He is in Manect mode.
Right.
But he's doing it for free. And apparently that's because Candace Owens not calling Manect to find out what she should be doing in this situation. And so he's saying, don't do the TPUSA thing. Now,
I'm kind of
I say this. If he thinks that people who want Republicans to lose in 2026 and 2028 are cheering on what's going on with this, he is correct.
Yes.
I want to make that clear. That's what we're doing right now. Because yes, the more disoriented the right is, the more incohesive it is, if that's a word.
Incoherent. Sure.
Well, incoherent, but non-cohesive.
No, yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The better.
Coherent and cohesive aren't synonyms. Sorry.
But let's
not a big deal.
This, sage advice.
Democrats back in.
Backing up Sam on that one. Can't just replace them in every situation. Substitute them.
Now, whether she's coming from a place of, she's doing it because she's getting eyeballs. She's doing it because a dream she had with Charlie, and Charlie told her this. Whether it's because
these are the tiles. Okay.
Whether it's because that's exactly what she believes. I don't care what those reasons are. Everybody has their own reasons for doing some things, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to you, and then it takes 10, 20 years to really learn the motive. It took us 4 years to realize what happened with the pipe bomber, right? The 4 or 5 years to realize.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, to realize what's going on with the pipe bomber. We may not know what's going on here for a long time, but what we do know is the following. Turning Point USA falls. Someone is replacing those kids being fed, and then who is that? Name me the second biggest Turning Point USA organization that you trust.
Okay, here we go.
Name me who you
Tiles
trust
in.
above Turning Point USA, where the guy Charlie Kirk put it together.
Wait, I only have 3 tiles. Fuck.
Either Charlie Kirk was such a horrible leader that he picked people the wrong way, then we're questioning his character. Because you get judged for who you choose.
Carved into the fireplace.
Okay, and so Candace's argument is if Turning Point USA is that bad, then that's questioning his character and his wherewithal to pick the right leadership team on what to do with the company. Okay.
Here's this madness.
Yes. We're actually the Charlie defenders here.
Yeah, that seems like.
Oh, there were numbers in that. It's very simple.
Like all of the
But again, I was too busy to
were
do the accent.
Interests. Seems to be very motivated reasoning. To say that beyond the grave he would have approved of all of these things.
Well, apparently, I mean...
also the people he hired around him, I think is the implication. That why would Charlie... Like, because Candace is literally saying, like, his chief of staff is doing suspicious...
Oh, okay, I see.
After Charlie. So Charlie, if you say that those people are suspicious, you're actually...
Wait, so is there no 4th time?
You're not just questioning Charlie Kirk, you're questioning his character as a person.
Judgment.
It's the begin.
So he is
I don't have a spring tile.
With Charlie Kirk than Candace Owens is what he's saying. It's fascinating.
For everyone to work on.
Is there any more to this?
Spring.
This is not as good as it gets here. But
all winter.
Another strand. So you'll notice that PBD is taking the same tact that Tim Pool took, which is this is destroying the, hurting the Republicans' chances in the midterms, which I think, well, okay,
Summer, fall.
Maybe. It's not helping it, probably. And Candace Owens shot back like, I don't care about the midterms. This is my friend I'm defending here.
Here, Candace. Righteous.
Maybe no, it's
Hey,
spring.
folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at
Maybe.
12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
There must be a void file somewhere.
There was a story in the Chronicle of Higher Education about how University of Austin, which is the
For everyone to Oregon. I'm right there, right?
unaccredited university started by Barry Weiss.
And with the help, of course, of a bunch of really, really rich guys like Andreessen, Horowitz, etc.
And
Still think this one's spring, technically.
Harlan Crow.
Harlan Crow.
The guy who bought
I think this is supposed to be fall.
Thomas.
The winter one's obvious.
Kept him on the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Clarence Thomas.
So a bunch of, Barry Weiss, her whole career has been
falling
owned
leaf.
by right-wing billionaires, and this is no exception.
And the funny part about this is that UATX
The last time.
Was started because it was supposed to be, we don't censor. We are not censorious. We allow all
Dragon Sun.
opinions here. According to an analysis from the Chronicle of Higher Education, many of the people who joined UATX at the beginning of the school project have departed, either by choice or due to public disagreements with the school's trajectory. Over 20 university employees have left UATX. Eli Avashi, the co-founder and director of the Mill Institute, which is an educational organization working with UATX, was asked to leave the university after posting an article about diversity in initiatives on LinkedIn. In that post, Avashi wrote, "We can have criticisms of DEI without wanting to tear down the whole concept of diversity and inclusion," and Barry Weiss fired her.
Wow.
In a piece for the website Quillette in May, Avashi said that she had been drawn to UATX initially because she experienced ideological tribalism while at Harvard. But Avashi said that instead, she never expected to also find ideological litmus test at UATX. In other words, there's ideological tribalism everywhere, but Harvard didn't fire you.
It's almost like Barry Weiss, who I guess...
Because of what you posted on LinkedIn.
Yeah, Barry Weiss...
I wonder where this leads.
I was reminded that, I guess...
Maybe to another tile.
The debate between Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro, and Sam Harris was the Kamala...
Yeah.
Shapiro was the Trump one. It's like...
Yeah,
that's,
both sides.
Both sides. That's why... But a center-right Zionist and a far-right Zionist are going to debate...
The Majesty Tooth.
Well, that was like my old buddy, Indy Mike, who said, "I'm an independent. I listen to both sides."
Grow restless and weary.
Megyn Kelly and Sean Hannity.
Bill Maher now.
Yeah. But this story is not about Barry Weiss at UATX or UATX or whatever that unaccredited
What's it, UATX?
She is now the head of all the news at CBS, based upon her running a small Substack. And there was...
Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Emma
I still have the
did
spear.
another appearance on Abby Phillips' show. As I've mentioned, her and Sam have been going on these shows more often, which is just kind of interesting to see. It shows a little bit of a change in tone at some of those networks, even though they are still employing Republicans and trotting out corporate Democrat talking points consistently. They're also feeling a little bit more incentivized to platform people from like the Majority Report and other more left-leaning voices, as well as those voices like Sam and Emma feeling incentivized to go on those programs to try to reach some people to maybe try to shift some of the electoral dynamics in this.
Wonder where this leads.
The midterms.
On the way to find
There's
out.
some stuff out there that
Going through the
these
door. Wait, I've never been in there before. What?
audiences might not always hear.
Oh, I'm out here again.
These shows. Ultimately, I do think it's good to get on a certain TV audience. I think that it's a little bit too entertainment focused for me. They're kind of jockeying off of the Fox News format that was pretty successful. The Five.
Oh, I've got these books over here. I've got one, two.
On CNN, which I guess has also been successful, mainly just as it's really just about who you platform and who you don't. I think it's kind of a cop-out to do this like equal from both sides, because you're never getting
so Spring's the first one,
from both sides.
Summer's the last one.
CNN panel, you have people like pretty far to the right, and then Emma Vigeland
Migration,
is the
House of
furthest to the
Dragons,
left, which is like
Cloud
pretty
Formation,
democratic socialist,
the Aurora
type
Borealis.
Stuff, a lot of real radicalism there. Whereas, you know,
and look at the other ones.
The Overton window just keeps going further and further. So
The great
I don't know. It's hard to know how to combat that, and that's I guess what I really want to get into here. But I'm gonna keep it light on this one. It's the last day of the year. I'm also pretty tired, so I've got some longer clips here of Emma Vigeland's appearance on this show. So we'll get into what she did right here, a couple stumbles, a little bit, and we'll just close out the year on a chill note like that.
Well, I mean, it seems like the Trump administration is banking that nothing's going to happen, that nobody is going to respond. Maduro's not going to respond. Maduro's not going to want to provoke a direct conflict. But I wonder, do the American people, do they need some kind of explanation from this president?
I would hope so. I mean, when you look at the polling on this front, over 70% of Americans.
I think this is right. It said two or skip for everyone.
It's deeply unpopular. Secondly, when you talk
For
about
everyone, too. Awful.
Here, Congress has the authority to declare war. That is what the founders wrote in the Constitution. Now, we broaden that authority with the authorizations for the use of military force after 9/11. But those
Something's happening
pertaining to the response to 9/11 and to the Iraq War. They have not even provided an explanation, as you say,
a new clue
they're even using, which makes it expressly illegal.
You need one person and on one of the animals or something?
That you're talking about.
Oh wait, no, I can't stand on them. Never mind.
But I also just like want to step back for a second.
A second.
And look at the justifications that they're even using.
Regard.
They're saying that these are
Weird.
terrorists, etc. And
Each
that's the
battle
Republican
with
line. But then
season the
Trump
stag with the
goes,
summer.
"This is for the oil."
That's in the last room.
When we did the
Remember?
invasion of Iraq and killed hundreds of thousands of people there, at least the Bush administration had like
The stag is the one on the end.
pretend and go to the United Nations and say, oh, we're going to do this through the regular channels. I mean, this brazen, bully, illegal administration doesn't even go through that pretense. And I think that should scare everybody, because their foreign policy is might makes right, and that's all that matters.
Aired in battle.
I'm not scared. I don't think any American is
But-
scared.
but hold
of the
on.
consequences
I
of
care
this,
about the
because
world,
we-
not just America.
Stag is the one on the end, because that's what
caring about
the banner says.
terrorist group and
Right? And it's
there's been no
associated with summer, so it's already in the right place.
that are being
That's
sent
not
here.
how this works.
We do know, as a matter of fact, that this is a country that very clearly does engage in narco-terrorism and is a hub for sending.
What is that? Define narco-terrorism. Define it. Define it. Literally. Like, just explain what you mean by that. If it clearly does, obviously engage in this act. Define what that is. Literally.
Here, they're going to roll their eyes. That's just the reality. It might be important.
Because when you eventually describe, like, oh, they're trying to bring drugs, it's like, oh, okay, wait, no, that's not a blow up, like, that's not an offense that you blow people up for. Actually, you just associate it with. First of all, we don't have proof they're drug
in the town square.
I don't think this is the town.
Just attach the word terrorism to narco, and now you're like saying that like you're somehow making it seem like everyone that wants to bring cocaine in somewhere is like committing 9/11, and that's not true. That's just not true.
Square, and I don't think that this is a declaration of war.
And now you can just say, oh, they have fentanyl. There's barely any fentanyl coming out of Venezuela, but you know, it's fentanyl, narco-terrorist, blow up. It's brainless. It's brainless bullshit. It's brainless bullshit for the stupidest people on earth. The people that like were still thinking like the Iraq War is awesome in like 2008, even when like every Republican and everything was like, I don't know about this.
This isn't really about the drugs.
Are we there again? Wait, Iraq? I thought it was Osama bin Laden, you know, like that, like, the people that were still like, no, we gotta do it to defend freedom. That's like everybody now.
I mean, they clearly believe, first of all, we don't even recognize Maduro as a legitimate government.
Scott, why would we say it's about the oil?
Because we believe they
Oh, okay, wait, no, I get it now.
engaged in trafficking oil around the hemisphere.
So I need to do it in the order of the,
The overarching strategy is we are the overriding authority in the Western Hemisphere. That is our view. It's about drugs. Maybe it's about oil that's under sanction. Maybe it's about the fact there's an illegitimate thug in charge of a country, and we don't want him in charge of it. It can be all of those things. But the reality is, We're the big player in the hemisphere, and we're not going to let these people do
So
whatever
might
they
make
want.
right. Let's hit pause, guys, because we have a lot.
All right,
a
so
little
this
bit
first
more.
clip is them talking about the Venezuelan strikes that Trump has been
We're
doing.
the big player, which means that we don't need to have actual facts on our side. We don't need to have proof of anything. We can just say, like, they bad, they're bad, bad, boom. Then we can go boom, boom.
CIA is carrying out drone strikes.
Caveman of the Western Hemisphere, yeah.
So immediately, Scott Jennings and this other clown, this other right-wing guy who's sitting next to Emma Vigeland, immediately launch into...
Don't you understand? We have all the strength, which means we can just say that they're terrorists or whatever, and we can just blow them up.
I think that's the problem with this type of program to me, because no matter what Emma says,
Again,
no matter
it's
what
the fucking...
point to that is, there's
going back in time, like somebody going back in time and trying to like help like cavemen, and then just being like, oh, it's a scary wizard, and like beating the shit out of them with clubs. That's what this feels like. It's what it feels like being in America now. Like the stupidest people have overwhelming power on their side. The rest of the world is terrified. It's Last King of Scotland.
America has been doing in Gaza through
The end of Last King of Scotland. James McAvoy says, you're like a child, that's what makes you so fucking scary.
Full consent of this media apparatus that's presenting us this
Yeah, I
show.
mean-
And so that is why there's a Scott Jennings and whoever this
I
other
watched it
guy
like
is
decades ago.
defending this. Whereas, like, it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't have to be that way, and we shouldn't have to accept that as the populace of America, that immediately the first thing that we are going to see when news breaks of strikes like this, illegal strikes, is stooges on the news.
Each paired in battle with
That's not what the news is for. I get
past
that there's a
order
certain
was
perspective
restored.
for it if
The past or the
conservative
future open
warmongering
and new. So I need to go look at the
perspective
banners
needs a
again.
little bit of platform
Unless I wrote them
in
down in my
game of
journal.
free and fair debate, fine. But the reality is that perspective is favored over and over again when these things
Okay, no, this
come
is too
up.
much.
This is CNN. This is supposed to be the counterpoint to what Trump is doing, and it's difficult for anyone else to even get a word in over these two right-wing guys talking about how Trump has the absolute authority to do this and America's going to be the police of the Western Hemisphere. When did anybody sign up for that? When did any Trump voter sign up for that? And the
Okay, so
fact
I'm
that
right.
these
I need
guys
to
go on this show and they
go look at the
say,
other banners. I got the
"This is
stag
how
in
the
summer,
American people feel."
and
Your average
find out
person is not gonna
season
have
they're
an issue.
associated
They're
with.
gonna roll their eyes if you talk to them about the details.
Spring,
of
well, you
whether
know,
it's
from the
legal
pattern that's
for
on them,
a
and
person
then
to kill
press
whoever
them with
he
the guy.
wants.
The old
That's not true. Even the base that elected Trump does not like this type of shit, doesn't want to go to war with Venezuela, and is very sensitive to the idea of the government just going to war, doing strikes like this,
The other
without
banners,
feeling
there's
the
one right
need to
there.
tell the American people
Wait,
what
what?
it's about. That is something that Americans on both sides of the aisle are not that into, and is actually a huge, major motivating force in both of the elections that Donald Trump won, is this idea that he's not going to be a warmonger. Now, obviously, anybody who fell for that is a dupe, and that is only proven by these guys going out on CNN.
Every time, like I get like people fall for like campaign messages because they don't like
This is their job. They were
follow
always
politics
going
very
to do
closely. They
this.
don't really
They
ideology,
knew
but like
when Donald
he had
Trump
like a
was
whole
running
other
for office
term.
that he would give them opportunity to do this, go out and defend.
Do you think he was like just like president of peace during that? We were in the middle of wars.
Exactly what Donald Trump ran against. This is just what the Republican Party is. Really, this is what
Nothing
the
matters.
apparatus of America is, which goes back to my point about CNN platform. That's why they're there, is that so that when something like this happens, they can be the first to come out and justify it. That's what Fox News is supposed to be there for. The fact that that's also happening on CNN just shows not only this creep towards authoritarian fascism, which goes much further back than Trump if you really trace this warmongering stuff, but also it shows how hollow the entire project of
there we go.
opposition to
Even in
this
winter.
right-wing warmongering is. There's barely any voices in media who are actually
There's one in
opposed
the
to
prison.
this. So kudos to Emma. I think she approached this in pretty much the right way. And the other guy opposite Emma on the panel, I don't think
Scott
I showed it
Jennings?
in the
Fuck that
clip,
guy,
but
dude.
he
I hate
also
him.
did call it out
Oh,
as
never
a
mind.
colonial mindset, this idea of
Put
policing
it on the record.
the Western Hemisphere and going back to an Iraq war perspective. So I appreciated that. He is a little bit more of an establishment type. He said he had worked with Kamala Harris or something like that. So it was good that there was...
Oh,
a
and
little
it's
bit of
that pattern
but
too.
Those voices just seem comparatively weak. to the warmongering that you're hearing on this program. And so it just doesn't really seem very much like a CNN panel to me. But that's ultimately what this stuff comes down to, is that the right-wing voices are the loudest. They're not there to debate. They're not there to exchange ideas. They're there to pretend to. But they already know what they're going to say, and it does not matter what you say. They're not going to budge. And so that's where I feel like Emma makes a couple.
That's fine. Like, I don't like, and especially in that context, you don't need them to budge. That's not the whole point of that.
The reality is, if you're going to do a show like this, you have to take the spotlight, use the opportunity to say whatever you're going to say.
Exactly. Like, right-wingers actually do this correctly, because it's like, you can't, like, get in the weeds, like, every individual argument that your opponent, like, about messaging discipline. You're trying to convince other people watching. So, like, you can't get distracted by things that are, like, deliberately trying to be, like, what's, like, the miniature version of things to throw you off and get you, like, on a different, I said that before, that's why I think Sam Peter is a better Hassan. Because if you watch a 5-hour debate, Ethan, Hassan, because of his ADHD, has this, like, inability to focus on the crux of his arguments. He does, like, messaging discipline well and, like, otherwise, but when he's, like, having actual debates, get dragged off topic. And Sam is better at the crux of the argument, honing in on it, immediately stressing that point.
And then it doesn't matter what they say. And so, yes, there has to be a little bit of combativeness. I'm not saying it was altogether a bad strategy the way she went about it. I thought this thing about should the Sacklers be executed in the public square, that's a genuinely good thing to say, I think, because it's a little shocking. So it moves the conversation forward. But again, you know, putting the ball in his court.
No, but it illustrates the point. How do you define narco-terrorists? That's actually a really good part of, like, a line on her part of
a certain worldview and leave it
establishing that, like,
and
you're just
never back off of it. That's
just applying terrorists to people.
That has worked to normalize this.
That you're accusing of, you know,
to normalize
trafficking drugs
towards immigrants. I mean, you name it. Every talking point.
But you have
trotted out on Fox News is
pharmaceutical companies and their CEOs and stuff who are guilty of killing way more Americans.
Comfort zone for themselves to just keep saying it. That's why it's not really that productive to have that type of voice on a panel where you're trying to have, like, a real productive debate. But that's just what American media is at this point. So anyway, here's the last clip of Emma.
And there's one in the prison too. I think that's the last one.
Ukraine, as well as taxing the rich here. And so I think Emma makes some good points, but also, again, makes the mistake of basically allowing her interlocutors to have too much time on the mic. So here's that.
Yes, and I do think that
well, that's the one thing the right does very well. Just trying to shout over you. Like, is this the grandstanding? No.
Well,
she had that other recent appearance where she was on Israel, where Scott Jennings, like, grandstanded, just being like, well, you never brought up October 7th terrorism, blah, blah, blah. You know, like that kind of thing where, like, you act like you're really, really emotionally involved and you care a lot, but you're, like, kind of bloviating, run out the clock. You actually don't really care about the ability of the discourse. You don't care if both you and the other person are shouting at each other, like, while they're trying to get across their genuine points. Like, you just keep doing the, like, grandstanding. That's exactly what Scott Jennings did.
Moral standing throughout the world due to our complicity in the genocide in Gaza, which has made it very difficult for us to speak to Ukrainian sovereignty and having a bully like the Russian government invading their sovereign territory. We had a doctor on our show who spoke about how the death toll is in the hundreds of thousands at this point because the numbers that are currently being reported.
What's the other path into the prison?
The death toll of people who have been counted in the hospital. There are hundreds of thousands of people presumed dead, bleeding to death.
I should just drop down the well.
Rubble because of United States bombs, and that's across this administration. And Trump here, who did get this
I think that's where the last banner was.
All the time in October. But when you look at the actual numbers here, Israel has violated it hundreds of times since that period, multiple times a day, killed at least 400 Palestinians during that period. And this will go down as one of the worst crimes in the history of humanity that our government
the Biden administration and the Trump administration.
Also, not to make it about people's appearance, but yeah, I don't know who did fucking Emma's makeup and hair and shit for that, but like she was like slaying both of her CNN appearances. She had like all the contouring and shit. Oh my god, I never like I don't know, like again, this isn't critical of her. Not critical of her because I don't do makeup every day already. I think it's less common now. But like, Christ, yeah, I've never seen her glow.
We know that there's plenty of disagreement on that issue.
I never said that.
We let it on spool for 2 minutes, but sure. I mean, honestly.
Okay, I have a quick word.
Well, I don't understand. Israel's our
If it's not like completely like people going makeup free, like very light every day.
On October the 7th.
Wait, did I run by a banner? No, it's over in the hallway, I think, or like the ones are sitting around, right?
For the fact that Hamas right now is killing people in
Wait, this is the one. This is it. What I was talking about.
You seem to lay it all at the feet of Israel, a democratic
The grandstanding.
country, and you have no negative word.
He doesn't care about getting his like that's the important thing here. He doesn't really care about his points. He doesn't care about the points he's making. He has no emotional investment in it. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to drown her out. That's it. That's the whole goal. Whole mission. And she could keep just trying to get her points across. Instead, she like kind of waits, pauses, and hiccups. And to be clear, I don't think that's like the best way to conduct a debate. Ideally, there'd be a moderator, like going like, Scott, shut the fuck up, right? But the point is to just drown her out with this grandstanding.
You still don't.
We gotta go. Rita Ninen, thank you very much.
Governments redistribute resources. That's what we do, and we make these choices.
And the billionaires pay a huge portion already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. It's called property taxes. It's called sales taxes. You would certainly concede that billionaires spend more in sales tax, right?
Why can my generation not afford to own a home? And that's in part because all of property ownership. No, it's not our job. It's about It's about returning.
Is it the government's job to buy for you?
No, it's not the government's job to buy people homes. But
No, yeah, it's the government's job to make like an affordable, like, no, yes, this is a whole problem with neoliberalism. Yes, it's supposed to be the government's job to make sure people can live in the fucking country. That's like what they do. It's like the main thing. One of the main things I do.
Scott, what do taxes do? They redistribute.
An important role they're supposed to fill.
No, not redistributed to individuals. It's supposed to be used.
The government makes choices. So you can
like it's crazy. Think about like any urban planning or like city planning game you've ever played. Like, at what point in the beginning of it was it just like, well, there's the world, now just like sit back and wait? Like it never goes like, hey, maybe you should. I'm being reductive, but you get the point. Have a role as a leader. Make your country livable.
That is what
choices in a different way. And I just want, I'm sorry, just quickly.
Actually, that would be a perfect like 4X game. Just like the like neoliberal capitalist 4X version where like you were rewarded for just like not doing anything.
We're talking billions of dollars, okay?
Why pick $1 billion? Why in Washington did you pick $1 million? Why
Every time you intervene to like make something better in the 4X in this 4X game, like you get penalized
Why not 10? Why not 20?
by people accusing you of betraying capitalism or the free market.
That we hate.
Being like, that's not government's role. You shouldn't be intervening.
$70 billion in fraud going on in the state. The reason
Civ 7, neoliberal edition.
The budget in California is due to fraud. That's why they're trying to tax these people.
You just admitted that it was about.
All right, so yeah, they're talking about Ukraine here and how Trump has been weird he's always been weird when it comes to the issue of Putin. Everybody knows that. It's another thing that these guys are going to defend him on 100%, but they're also
I don't know where the last book is. I hope it's in the fireplace.
Dictator, blah blah blah. So it doesn't make any sense at all. But Emma does a great move here by pivoting to Gaza, even though I will admit, I mean, it's a mostly unrelated thing and does distract from the conversation. However, I think that was smart. I think that's what you should do on a program like this, specifically with the type of people that she's sitting across from. I don't think she should go there to pick a fight with Abby Phillips necessarily, even though she is throwing a wrench in Abby Phillips' program by saying that. It causes a distraction, it causes a big kerfuffle, but it also gets their goat, and it got them upset.
and redirected the conversation to what Emma wanted to be talking about. So that's the kind of tactic that you see from right-wingers all the time, and it's smart to go on a program like that as a leftist.
Oh wait, no, it's that room, right?
Throw haymakers that redirect the conversation so that, yeah, of course the right-wingers are going to say, how dare you not condemn the actions of blah, blah, blah. They're going to say that, but that's good. Get them on the back foot and get them whining. Like I said, it doesn't matter what they say. You have to assert your version of reality and even take a page out of their book and just say, this is how the American people feel. This is what people want. This is what's gonna happen. That's the kind of thing that I think takes advantage of these.
I think I need him to press the tiles down right at the block.
Extent possible. Because going and trying to have an honest exchange with people like that is just not going to work. Obviously, Emma knows that, and these are high pressure things. I don't know that I would perform very well doing a debate like this because it's very dynamic. You don't know exactly what somebody's going to say, and so it's easy to get thrown off your game, or maybe something doesn't go quite the way you expected. They tell lawyers, never ask a question that you don't already know the answer to. And
okay,
also,
I'm going to
say things that are a little
have to check something on
the thing about executing
social media, the tiki-talkies. I had to check something on there really fast. I can't do that. I don't know. I'm like doing an impression of Sam Cedar doing an impression of Chuck Schumer, and it's terrible.
Something unexpected to the audience. You're giving the audience good
I'm gonna pee
TV,
and
also
my social
serves the
media.
point of moving the conversation to the left, and that's what the right-wingers on these shows are able to do. They know that they're going to just argue with liberals and it's just going to upset them and they're going to cry about it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the people they're arguing with say in response. All that matters is they get out the idea that, you know, America's going to be the police of the Western Hemisphere. Or if you're going to tax billionaires, you might as well tax everyone who makes $500,000 the same amount. They just have to say it. Their job is to just get that out on the air in this environment. You kind of have to ignore the people you're actually arguing with and just focus on the words that you're getting out there. And for the most part, I think Emma does a good job of that here. And, you know, I think it's just something that we, across the board on the left, just have to be better at. Just asserting our worldview loudly, taking up space, not backing off of a single point ever, because all of these points that they have been able to normalize and make ground on, it's just purely a matter of repetition. They've just been doing it. They go out on Fox News, they go out now on CNN every day, and they say the same thing. Doesn't matter how mad people get or what portion of the audience agrees with them. All that matters is they keep making that appearance. And so if we're going to appear on shows like this, we got to do the same thing, but better.
Me too close to, too much to do. The mission is too crucial. Shout it out from the rooftops until I lose vocals. Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity.
There's a couple of things going on that we haven't really paid that much attention to, but actually have, like, probably will have material import down the road. And that is the sort of both simultaneous implosion of some right-wing talkers audience and an incredible amount of info
okay.
going
I thought
on
it was
that
like
I think will ultimately be pretty consequential, at least for the near
Bears are cannons, technically. Well, wait, caniforms.
I don't know where to start with this. You first had a lot of like right-wing dissent around Israel. On one side, you had the principal anti-Semites who and American firsters. I don't know that there's really a huge gulf between those two people.
No.
But they did not like our involvement in Israel. So sometimes good things can come from bad places.
First things first.
Basically Christian nationalists.
Either the bear or the wolf. Let me check my pictures. I said I took a picture of the banners.
Goofy Christian nationalists.
Yeah.
So I'd remember.
And
Okay, wolf.
They
Wolf, then crow, then bear, then stag.
started to attack people like Ben Shapiro, who
Hey! Okay, well
Ben
that's...
Shapiro, trying to be an American firster, but also tied for first with Israel.
Yes, well, I don't even know if he'd say tied, but we can quibble with that. But it is interesting, like, I mean, Ben Shapiro was so cool with Candace Owens' open anti.
I guess I could try to run around.
When she was employed at the Daily Wire.
Hitler apologized.
She literally said while at the Daily Wire that Hitler's problem was not that he kept it confined to Germany, but that he had expansionist aims and he wasn't Germany first. Newsflash, there were Jewish Germans who would probably disagree with that, and Ben Shapiro held on to her throughout that entire saga. Also the Kanye West saga, when Kanye was going out there, she was defending him. Even Shapiro was
read the poem.
Kanye said, what was it? Everyone's just like, or Hitler. I forget exactly what he said about Hitler that was positive, but it was.
Or wait, no, I might be wrong.
Yeah. So, like, my point is just that Candace Owens was very defensive of those two. Obviously, like, anti-Semitic statements by Kanye and then by herself, and Shapiro had her on until she was speaking about anti-Zionism, and that's when they parted ways.
That's when they parted ways, and that has morphed in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination into some, like, swirling conspiracy theories that started with Israel.
Oh, that did it.
Charlie Kirk out because ostensibly Charlie Kirk was turning on Israel.
And now Crow?
Quite unclear that that was the case.
No, he just wanted to still have Tucker Carlson come to TPUSA events. That's all it was.
Yes. Yeah. And we should say, like, he wrote some text, I think, to Candace Owens or to somebody 2 days before he was assassinated that indicated that maybe he was going to turn against Israel, or he wasn't going to take. But presumably, Israel had been planning months before this assassination. And, you know, there's a lot of people that had to be paid out. But then the conspiracy theories. And look, I'm not in a position to judge really, like, and I haven't really followed it, but it's involved other TPUSA individuals that Candace Owens has been pushing.
And Stag.
Saying that, you know, that they were all sort of conspired against it, and now they're addressing Candace Owens. And you should just know that Shapiro's show's numbers have cratered.
Yep.
Charlie Kirk's show's numbers have cratered, and everybody seems to be lining up on one side or the other of this, and then there's a couple of peacemakers in between. And here's PBD trying.
The U.S. just seized a Chinese-linked
sorry
oil
about that.
tanker in the Caribbean, and everyone is pretending it's not a major escalation by the Trump administration.
Explain a little more about this Venezuelan oil tanker and share a little more information.
Well, I'll let the people do it, but you see the
You're almost done with the game.
Probably have released the pictures by now, pretty soon.
Lots of badges.
You'll discuss that with the appropriate people later on, but no, it was seized for very good reason.
Over the weekend on December 20th, the U.S. Coast Guard seized a second oil tanker in the Caribbean. That now brings the count up to 2 oil tankers seized by the U.S. Coast Guard in just the past week. This is, of course, coming after Donald Trump called for a blockade on all sanctioned oil tankers leaving and entering Venezuelan waters. But this second oil tanker captured
another
on
secret
Saturday
password.
really
We're
shakes
getting
things
good
up
at
for
work
the United
out together.
States.
Like,
because according to Reuters, although the ship was not Chinese-owned, it was carrying oil bound for China, being bought and transported by a leading oil intermediary between Venezuela and
this
China.
book was important
This is
to
a major escalation by the United States, getting China even more involved in a conflict they already play a key part in. But China has remained vocal during all of this, just today reiterating their condemnation of America's bullying of the global south. With China's foreign ministry spokesperson saying onDay, the arbitrary detention of ships of other countries by the
It reminds me of like Bleak Jim Gaffigan. Like if Jim Gaffigan didn't have a sense of humor.
Unilateral sanctions that lack lack the basis
Four-star
of
radio
international
is to me.
law and are not authorized by the UN Security Council. Venezuela has the right to independently develop mutually beneficial cooperation with other countries and believes that the
over here.
international community
Okay,
understands
we're back here
and supports
together.
Venezuela's position of safeguarding
Going to
its
solve a puzzle
legitimate
together?
rights and interests. Now, some U.S. adversaries like Iran and China had much
no,
more
it's too small for me.
things to say in response to America's actions against Venezuela, and I'll touch on that in just a bit. But first, I want to take a quick look at how the media
Am I doing
is
over here?
covering all this. Specifically, the second season of an
Oh,
oil tanker.
wait, no, is this where I came out of?
China. Because mainstream media, as you all know, is where consent is manufactured. Just don't Google that. Its creditor is in a bit of hot water.
There's nothing else here.
Let's
Oh wait,
first
no,
look
it's the
at
book. Okay, I'm good.
87 in Los Angeles, which is strangely one of the few local news stations still owned and operated by
Once again, I was too
these
focused on
local
doing the
stations
stupid
tend
accent
be
to
a great source
pay attention to what I actually picked up.
the type of vanilla liberalism propaganda being plastered across America.
The U.S. Coast Guard today seizing another oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. It's the second time this week the Coast Guard has done so. It's part of the Trump administration's campaign against drug cartels and the flow of drugs into the U.S. and, according to the president's own chief of
I'm going
staff,
to use the old guy.
aims for regime change in Venezuela.
So they're still going with this drug narrative for all of this, but they're also very vocal about the fact that this is really a means for regime change. This is a really important piece to this entire puzzle. I mean, the United States is just posting unclassified footage on their Twitter page right after this took place. They're boasting about their power in the Caribbean.
Get out of my way.
Why are they so confident about this? Nothing is really trying to be hidden. Nothing is brushed under the rug. Why? It's possibly a means to make Americans feel like they're being taken care of, they're being made safer by the American government. Who knows? It really is the million-dollar question.
At least 15 sanctioned tankers are floating off Venezuela and could be targeted if they enter international waters, experts say. A move that would choke Venezuela's oil exports, the lifeblood of President Maduro's regime.
They continue to use the word regime, which I'm honestly surprised that mainstream media is still calling entire countries' governments a regime. I mean, it almost seems
Her
like
eyes
you're
are
kind of
crazy.
calling your own cards.
What the fuck? They did not want you zooming in that close on this shit.
You're using the word regime. Like, what even makes a government a regime and not a regime? It just seems a little bit too on the nose for these people. Like, we know what you're doing, ABC7.
She looks so wacky.
Piracy. And Maduro ally Russia saying the U.S. is now threatening international shipping in the Caribbean.
Now, really, the only reason they're quoting Putin in this moment is to remind people that Venezuela is allied with the big bad Russia that everyone and their uncle has been conditioned to fear.
We've always expected
I need to put rhetorical or else it's going to die.
Regime.
Now, this statement from Secretary of State Marco Rubio is really interesting. They always expected Russia to provide rhetorical support to the Maduro regime. Perhaps Venezuela isn't the primary target, but rather a secondary target caught in the crossfire currently being used as a battlefield. Really, despite Donald Trump being in office, the self-described peace president, the media hasn't talked about Venezuelan oil much at all. And when they do talk about this seizing of oil vessels, they're all very careful with their wording, continually framing Venezuela as the bad guy and not the United States. And not even Donald Trump himself, which is actually quite surprising, because if you look back almost 10 years now to his first term as president, the media was all over him. If this had happened back then, the media would have likely spent
thank
hours
God.
talking about it. But now it just seems
Coincidental, I was watching
normal. News Nation with Chris Cuomo was the next media conglomerate to pick this up.
And as I mentioned a moment ago, we are tracking breaking news off the coast of Venezuela. According to reports from Reuters, the U.S. is seizing and has seized a sanctioned vessel in international waters. This comes just days after President Trump announced a, quote, blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela.
And what they do here is pretty slimy. They're talking about how the United States and Venezuela both are jamming radars to protect themselves from potential attacks, framing the entire situation as two big countries duking it out and making the whole world dangerous for everyone else, rather than one country defending itself defending its sovereignty.
The New York Times is also reporting that the U.S. and Venezuela are both jamming satellite navigation signals in the Caribbean to guard against potential attacks, which really does add to an increased risk when it comes to flights and collision potential there. This really does seem to be another escalation.
Oh,
hey, what's up?
And off the coast of Venezuela, the U.S. has seized a second
The Department of
Venezuelan.
Truth.
Willie James Inman is traveling with the president in West Palm Beach, Florida. Willie James, good evening.
Tom, good evening to you. The Trump administration released new video of that seizure the Venezuelan government calls theft.
The Venezuelan
I wasn't
government
wanting to buy. Wait, did I already talk about this? I wanted to get Absolute Batman.
I can't really make a statement about it. I'm just a talking head on national news. I can't really make up my mind. Is this theft? Is it not? I don't know. But Venezuela thinks it's theft. The bad guys think they're being stolen from. The Fox News segment on this story was actually pretty funny, but not for, like, I wasn't actually really
The End of the World Volume 1 or Department of Truth Volume 1 End of the World.
All right, just like you.
No,
Just
maybe.
like you every time. I know that HR loves your expense reports because they're always on the low end. Lucas Tomlinson. Thanks, Lucas.
Indeed.
But they really don't talk about the second seizing of this oil tanker much at all, and instead decide to combine the story with a successful
Oh, yeah, it
US
looks like this is a comic.
strike
Okay.
on ISIS for some reason.
Less than a week after 2 American soldiers and a U.S. translator were
Oh, it's
killed
from
in
Image.
Syria,
Okay,
President
I'm gonna have to
Trump
get
says
it.
The United States has responded with multiple airstrikes. The administration says the strikes send a direct message to ISIS and a warning that attacks on Americans will be met with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, we're learning that U.S. forces seized
really
a
cool.
second oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela.
This is actually an interesting strategy by Fox News, combining stories about Venezuela with stories about successful U.S. military strikes. And they do the exact same thing in this next segment.
The Trump administration has really kind of had this ongoing narrative that American foreign policy is a lot of talk, it's a lot of rhetoric over the years, but it hasn't been truly effective in doing things that strengthen and secure American interests, and it is now looking for these outcomes that make Americans safer. The other thing, Griff, that's important is the Trump administration put sanctions back on some of Maduro's relatives, his nephews, these narco nephews.
Narco nephews? What is a narco nephew?
Yeah, those sanctions are significant, and really the last we've seen of Maduro, who knows what his move is. Last time we saw him, he was singing Bobby Farron's Don't Worry, Be Happy, but clearly he is feeling that pressure. Let me just
have anything else
to Netanyahu will reportedly brief Trump on possible new Iran strikes when they meet at Mar-a-Lago on December 29th. What do you make of that?
So once again, they're just combining this story about Venezuela with another story that has to do with US military strikes, this time on Iran. Now, I think this is sort of a means by the Trump administration to associate the war in Venezuela not with the economy or oil or whatever a lot of people are saying, but with
ring for that?
military strikes and defense, and associating it with a further war on terror. Because at the end of the day, wars like this are all about money and ultimately control. But by combining these two stories, they're able to associate Venezuela with other countries that Americans already associate with terrorism and the greater war on terror. And this successfully reframes Trump's actions in Venezuela as an attempt to combat a couple bad actors rather than an entire global economic system working outside of the United States, which is really what this is all about. And that brings me to my analysis. What's really going on? What should you be focusing on? What should you be avoiding? What should you be
Okay.
Well, a lot of leftists online have been talking about this over the past few days, and there seems to be a common misunderstanding about why the United States is in Venezuela, and it has to do with oil. The following video seems to be the common understood consensus opinion amongst most leftists.
So remember how I told you that the U.S. is trying to basically cleanse Venezuela for their free oil? Yeah, and that they got caught trying to infiltrate and like make this fake ass attack so that the US could apprehend the president of Venezuela and steal all the oil. Create like a false attack to make it seem like Venezuela did something to them, when in all actuality, they just wanted to raise for the fucking oil, bitch. What?
Really, I don't think the United States wants Venezuela's oil. They might
Yeah,
have
Twilight.
the largest oil fields in the world, but much of that is untapped. unreachable. And the United States, thanks to innovations in fracking, have become one of the leading oil extracting countries in the world. So the United States doesn't exactly need Venezuelan oil. What they do need, however, is for no one else to get their
So is
hands
Dawn the
on
one that's
said
facing?
oil. It's not about Venezuela having oil. It's about who they're selling their oil to. Iran, Russia, and China.
The U.S. is not seizing these tankers because they want Venezuela's oil. It's the wrong frame, and it misses the real risk of what's actually going on. This is actually about control of cash. We have sanctions on Venezuela, and they are moving oil out, making money off of it, because our sanctions are not working. So we have moved from paperwork, which was our diplomacy move. We put sanctions on them as a way to not escalate, but that's not working.
Now, China's response to the US seizing their oil was pretty tame, as China tends to be pretty reserved when it comes to global affairs. They like to keep to themselves. But when it comes to Iran and Russia, it was a bit of a different story. Russia urged the United States to not make a fatal mistake, and the Iranian foreign minister said that such actions represent dangerous unilateral behavior that must be firmly opposed by the international
I don't think I need her to solve it.
I'll leave you with this.
Her over here.
The Oval Office has been incredibly vocal about their true purpose for being in Venezuela: regime change. And that might seem weird at first, but it's nothing new. During the War on Terror, specifically the invasion of Iraq, it was quite common knowledge that this was to remove Saddam Hussein from power. The State Department obviously needed a reason for it, a reason to give to the American people as to why they're sending their sons and daughters to the Middle East. At the time, it was WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, and now it's practically the same exact situation, but the scapegoat is drugs. And honestly, after decades of the pharmaceutical industry hollowing out working class towns across the country, drugs are a far more relatable threat than something abstract like weapons of mass destruction. Americans may have been told to fear foreign weapons for generations, but they have first-hand experience of drugs destroying their families and their communities. And that's why the propaganda is working, at least for now.
Oh my god.
Every time Netflix drops a new show about another infamous serial killer, people worry that the creator will try to humanize the serial killer in some way, which everyone seems to agree is a bad thing.
I move this.
But what if I told you that you're all
I need her to pull it back.
I just get angry with other people who think that they have a right to somehow try to blame my parents for what happened.
I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me.
Oh my god.
I don't care about what happens to me. I never did, really.
I have to be fast.
A couple of months ago, I decided to watch the latest installment
Or
of
I have to set it all up
series
or
Monster,
something.
which loosely told the story of Ed Gein, the infamous grave robber who inspired far sicker abominations than he ever was in movies like Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. The first reason I didn't plan on watching it was because I'd given up watching the one on the Menendez brothers for reasons we'll discuss later. And I initially turned off the Jeffrey Dahmer one mere minutes in when I determined that Evan Peters was obviously born to play a sick nigga, and I like to sleep at night. And another reason I really wasn't itching to watch it was because, despite every other household in the country binging the series the moment it came out, Every YouTube video about the show that I came across was slamming it as the worst thing they'd ever seen.
Wait, no, wrong.
Or another. Most of the criticism I saw revolved around
Oh my god, I fucked it up.
Sexualizing and humanizing these notorious monsters, as well as just not staying true to the actual facts of what happened. Some criticism specifically took issue with Ryan Murphy casting very attractive people like Charlie Hunman, Evan Peters, Nicholas Alexander Chavez, and Cooper Koch to portray these horrific people. Critics argued that
No. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, we got it.
Should thus be casting very ugly people to play these roles because people would be more likely to appropriately hate them for their crime.
I feel like that's the first thing that's been timed in this entire game.
He insisted that it was phenomenal and that I give it a chance and form my own opinion despite what I'd heard on YouTube.
Secret staircase?
But what Mark actually said when I informed him that his new favorite show was getting dragged all up and down the YouTube streets was, oh, them. Those hating ass YouTubers, they don't know shit.
What did he say fuck me for?
So upon
Okay, that was a lot easier.
I put other people's critiques out of my mind and I watched the show, which then led me to finally biting the bullet and watching the one on Dahmer. Before going all the way down a full-blown rabbit hole that ended in me watching copious amounts of serial killer interviews, shows, documentaries, and reading the memoirs of several people close to infamous serial killers. Serial killers are fascinating because they are the one kind of criminal that everyone agrees needs to be thrown under the jail. And that's a minimum. Many people would
I feel like
we throw them into jail.
pedos too.
Always presented to us as these super intelligent, cunning, manipulative, evil monsters who are just evil to their core. And there's nothing that could have been done to prevent them from being that way, and there's nothing that could have been done to stop their killing sprees. Serial killers are fascinating because in so many ways, they are a work of propaganda. What is propaganda? Propaganda refers to media and entertainment designed to manufacture support for police, prisons, and the prison industrial complex. The term serial killer and the criminal profiling associated with them was literally—
This is reminding me of the Taylor Lorenz coverage of the Emiru,
by both the police and the media is designed to make us—
and basically like this belief that like
jails and the electric chair for these monsters because the American
like more security and surveillance is gonna help solve kind of this creepy— I don't know.
To actually try to prevent crime. Of course not. Prisons and policing are a business that rely on the cycle continuing and expanding. The American government's position is to just keep throwing more money at policing and prisons.
People have
Didn't know how much I agreed with it, and that's why I thought about it for a while.
Obviously, their
because it's right to a degree where it's like no matter how much security you add, you're never gonna be able to prevent that, and so like getting into that kind of fear mongering is counterproductive.
Thing that's over there. But in fact, they are an expression of, you know, some fundamental truths about American society. And this is a very much an American phenomenon, right? This is not a universal phenomenon.
I hope you don't mind, but I need your ring. Oh wait, okay, I need the rings for the door.
Is going to move in this direction.
What about that?
America
Sure.
is producing these folks. Part of our interest and fascination with them is that it makes us, on the one hand, feel better about us. Whatever bad things I've done or seen, at least I'm not that. You know, so it allows us to feel like we're on the good side and there's someone out there that is clearly on the bad side. And we can take this a little step further and say that it plays into this idea that there is evil in the world and that we want to understand it. And it has an almost religious-like quality to it, right? This reassurance, right, of good and evil. Ultimately, this is a kind of false binary that's being produced.
Which is what makes serial killers the perfect agent of propaganda and legitimizing the functions of prisons and excusing the failures of police. Think about it. Serial killers are extreme, rare cases of crime that barely account for crime in the US. But due to the horrific and evil nature of serial killers' crimes that shock the conscience and the nation in a way that everyone not only agrees that these are monsters that we can't do anything about, we dehumanize them. And it's that dehumanization that makes us not bat an eye when we learn Jeffrey Dahmer was brutally murdered in prison by another incarcerated person, because we think they're monsters who deserve what they get. The problem is, serial killers are few and far between, but the same dehumanization and disregard when Dahmer is killed in prison is what we extend to the people killed in US jails and prisons all across the country each and every day, many of whom are there for nonviolent crimes of poverty. Many of whom have been convicted and are awaiting trial because they can't afford bail. It's rare we hear about the daily murders that happen behind bars, because collectively as a society, we don't see the—
Oh, the rings go in the holes in the thingy, the pane.
And everything to be done to them. That's why serial killers
that I need one on each side.
Police, and other propagandists.
It serves a kind of ideological political purpose of saying that the world's problems can kind of be reduced to these questions of good and evil. And of course, who defines what evil is in this context? It gets extended to all kinds of questions. The behavior of young people who harm someone, the behavior of anyone who we find to be out of step, disquieting.
Oh, I've got to do them both at the same time. I was right.
For us, whether it's an unhoused person with a mental health problem or a recently arrived migrant engaged in like panhandling or soliciting day labor or whatever. This is like those people are outside the pale, and there are good people and bad people, and those people are on the other side. The world is a lot more complicated than that. There's a lot more gray areas than that. There's not the simplistic line between good and bad, offender, victim, guilty, innocent,
no matter which one.
lawful, unlawful.
That dehumanization that we are tricked into believing is necessary in order to rightly condemn harm and hold people accountable for their harm not only becomes the basis for excusing
the greenery matter
atrocities of an unjust criminal system.
Could be a match.
It becomes the reason we don't even attempt to get to the root of how and why people become criminals or commit harm, or what could be done differently to prevent it. And we're not crazy to feel this way. We're not the only ones who worry that humanizing a killer, trying to understand how and why they did what they did, or sympathizing with their backstory can veer into blaming other people or things for their actions. Even Jeffrey Dahmer himself worried about this.
Your dad has wondered about all kinds of things, from the medication that your mom was on during her pregnancy, to the fact that you were exposed to violent arguments in the home from an early age and continuing, to the possibility that he might have passed on some genetic propensity for obsession or violent behavior. Does any of that ring true to you? I can see why he'd wonder about those things, but as far as I'm concerned, they're all excuses. Because I didn't feel accountable to anybody. I didn't feel that I had to face what I had done ever. And so you have to, it comes to a point where a person has to be accountable for what he's done. Can't go around making excuses, blaming other people or other things. So I alone am the one who's responsible for what's happened.
And the dehumanization of criminals isn't something we're tricked into feeling passively. We also demand it, and that's at the heart of the unanimous impulse everyone feels to lash out at anyone depicting serial killers or other criminals as full people who lived lives where they experienced trauma, where they themselves were once victims. Because we confuse explanation with excuse. We confuse humanity with sympathy. So we look at any attempt to remind us that the people who commit these horrible crimes were people. We look at any attempt to visit the lives of these people to understand how they came to be as an attempt to make us sympathize with them, which we see as an affront to their victims. Because we think honoring victims means presenting their killers as one-dimensional monsters or pure evil who were born.
Oh no, maybe.
Humanizing people who commit crimes is not about sympathy. It's about humanity. Humanity creates a line we can't and don't cross that's not based on how we feel about the person or what they've done. It's about how we feel about their humanity and what's humane to do to other people, period. It's humanity at the heart of why someone might oppose the death penalty in all circumstances, no matter what a person's done to deserve it. It's not about sympathy. It's humanity that makes you consider how being neglected by his parents, abandoned by his mother, and left alone to quietly become an alcoholic and hate himself for being gay contributed to who Jeffrey Dahmer became.
Did you ever consider talking to your parents, to your dad, about homosexuality? Is that something you could ever raise? Early on, I really didn't know that much about it myself. All I knew was that it was something that was to be kept hush-hush, not talked about, not even thought about.
Pretty crazy how much, like,
kept it all within me.
Those, like, aspects of our culture, like, ravage people's minds. Like,
really.
The way it's portrayed as being, like, a mentally unhealthy thing to be gay or something, you know, like, by the right now, or... And then versus, like, these people that were repressing it and, like, the things that they ultimately did because of how much that just wrecked their brain.
Or who they were before they became what they did. Does that mean you can't...
Which isn't to say every closeted, you know, like, every repressed homosexual...
Does that mean you can't...
Jeffrey Dahmer, but they get up to weirder shit that they probably wouldn't have done.
Can we not
if they were just like normally gay.
Mustn't we? Even Dahmer's own father, who loved him, supported him, and thought it was important to humanize him, never did any of these things because he was trying to free his son or shield his son from accountability. In fact, years before Tracy Edwards escaped and led police to Jeffrey Dahmer.
I wonder if he's gonna be in one, because they call into every single one they come across.
When Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested and convicted for child molestation, his father
I already know he's not in one.
to Jeffrey's attorney, and then
That even happens.
begging to keep Jeffrey in prison unless or until he could get treatment for his alcoholism, which is something we'll talk about a lot more in depth later. And when Jeffrey was finally arrested for murder and his father finally learned what he was, he stood by his son because he was his son. And because supporting his son was never about trying to defend his son's actions.
Oh, I guess I can ride up this elevator.
Or getting his son off for his crimes. As Lionel Dahmer said, it was never a question of guilt, a question of Jeff's being released, but only of whether he'd be placed in a prison or in a mental institution. So what is the cost of recognizing his son's humanity and exploring how it was lost? I do not feel sorry for Jeffrey Dahmer.
And Jeffrey's really taken a reputational hit.
Feel sorry for Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dahmer,
In fact,
Epstein,
I'm trying to explain that
Dunham,
humanizing someone
maybe
is
the
not
worst one.
Feeling sorry for them, victimizing them, mitigating their actions, or holding someone other than them responsible for their crimes. It's important that we humanize people like Jeffrey Dahmer because it's necessary that we never lose sight of the fact that you can want to convince yourself that these people are monsters, abominations, and some kind of aberration.
Oh, sorry.
Because it's too difficult to digest.
Wherever you are, I know
all
have
you
been.
want. But the facts are that people, that human beings are capable of believing, doing, and becoming horrible things. And the world we
Done
live
more.
in, the world
Hope you found-
around them, does bear some responsibility in who we all become.
For many serial killers, we know, for instance, that they were exposed to horrific levels of abuse, and that this has directly contributed to a kind of warped sensibility that confuses like intimacy with humiliation, for instance. That is very common with people who've suffered like childhood extreme psychological and sexual physical abuse. That the people who love them are also the people who humiliate and torture them. And so this changes their mind structures around these ideas.
When to close the gate, that's kind of dangerous.
For instance, sexual pleasure from humiliating people. And that's not because they're some evil monster, it's because they were produced by a system that allows these things to happen to kids, fails to provide them with support, fails to believe them when they say these things are happening to them. And these are very American phenomena, unfortunately.
It's important to remember Jeffrey Dahmer was a human being, if for no other reason than to be a cautionary tale. There's a utility in revisiting Jeffrey Dahmer's childhood.
The lost sincere must. I can't do emotion and this accent at the same time.
Have these kinds of catastrophic consequences, that you would be better off being emotionally involved in your children's lives and getting to know them. There is utility in understanding what underlying beliefs, themes, and ideas influence them and exploring how it could have been avoided.
Oh, I thought it was a dad dying.
There is a difference between humanizing these
Dying
people
game, but it's a
and
mom dying game.
sensationalizing them, sexualizing them, romanticizing them, or glorifying them. That's why it's important to understand that deification is another form of dehumanization. And as such, there are legitimate criticisms made of some of the
Alright, that's enough.
movie adaptations
Me up now?
of
I don't
the
care.
crimes of serial killers. And we're going to discuss them later as we talk about Monsters installment of Ed Gein and the Menendez brothers. But first, I want to stick on humanity, Jeffrey Dahmer and his installment of Monster, which starred Evan Peters. But before we dive headfirst into Dahmer,
I never watched this. I don't watch shit like that usually.
Straight Arrow News, because I love them down, and they are the only reason I was able to make this long-ass video. Straight Arrow News,
Like Monster series or whatever. I do like Evan Peters.
Propaganda, the misinformation, the outright lies, and even AI to determine what's real and what's
Lars,
fake news.
you're
And
here?
Straight Arrow News' media mist doesn't just make sure I know whether the information I'm relying on is coming from the left, the right, or the center. They also make sure I'm informed.
So is that the end?
The mainstream media.
Is there more? Is there more puzzles or anything? I don't know.
Their media mist intentionally spotlights important stories that both the left and the right are underreporting, so that I don't miss a thing.
Lars, you became a weird monster.
In 2025. For example, look at how the left is covering updates on Luigi Mangioni's trial versus how to write is. We need straight arrow news so we don't miss.
My head sister was said by James Earl Jones and the Jedi.
To check it out or download their app for free. Yes, you heard me. Free 99. You can visit through the link in my description.
Okay.
When you visit, you not only support me, but you take advantage of a better way to get the news. So welcome back to Trustworthy Journalism. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, Straight Arrow News.
Okay, fine.
I am very grateful for the opportunity to explore the relationships intertwining my background with Jeff.
You done to my brother?
Shed some light on how he developed and to show that he was not, as some people insist, born a monster. That is an excerpt from the memoir A Father's Story by Lionel Dahmer.
I need him, and this dark magic cannot be
stopped. Father Lionel wrote that memoir because he felt obligated to interrogate how his son became
your
the
family.
kind of person who would go on to drug, rape, murder, defile, and even eat young boys and men. We were no longer parents, and we never would be again. We were the parents, and I in particular was the father of Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey, not Jeff. Jeffrey Dahmer was someone else, the formal public name for a man who was, at least to me, still Jeff, my son. Even my son's name had become public property, foreign to me, a press report's designation, the name of a stranger, an abrupt personalization of someone who at least
will it last
was
be here?
still incontestably a person. It's easy for the rest of us to believe that some people, the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world, are just monsters. Special kinds of evil who were born that way, who were born different than you and I, capable of evils we aren't. But Lionel Dahmer knew with certainty that his son wasn't born that way. He became.
You mean all those children you stole before Lars?
Only that he had.
Saw the memorial.
Of his and his son's life.
And fail you killed them.
By the fall of 1991, Sherry and I had heard my
Very
son
evil.
so often as a monster, a ghoul, a demon, that we felt it time to speak out, to let the world know that there had been another Jeff, a little boy who had been like other little boys. In a sense, we wanted to resurrect the boyhood, though in no way to condone what the man had done. In a sense, we also wanted to speak to the victim's family, to make it known that
I don't know. How do you pronounce that?
we were in no way supporting what he had done, but were as horrified as they were by his crimes. Lionel didn't humanize his son to excuse him, nor to justify his actions, nor to mitigate his culpability. Even
My friend, no.
wouldn't stand for that.
To this day, I don't know what started it, and the person to blame is sitting right across from
It looks like a
That's
weird
the
little
wrong person, not parents, not society, not pornography. I mean, those are just excuses. I feel it's wrong for people who commit crimes to try to shift the blame onto somebody else, onto their parents or onto their upbringing or living circumstances. I think that's just a cop-out. And my parents, my relatives, had no knowledge of what I was doing. They're absolutely not responsible for any of it in any way. I take full responsibility.
And Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker who brutally murdered at least 13 people, took a similar position to Jeffrey Dahmer. But he went a step further, arguing that he was born evil.
I believe in the evil in human nature. This is a wicked world. And in a wicked world, wicked people are born. I'm not going to blame society,
My dad.
race, or people, or anything. It is up to the individual like myself to keep on knocking on whatever door they want to get into.
Lionel Dahmer was a scientist who described himself as analytical. He was someone who wanted to understand how things worked, and so he studied them. He did the same thing with his son Jeff after he
Alan
came
Wake.
into the world as Jeffrey Dahmer, but not immediately. Lionel Dahmer
The one we never
said,
drive on?
"During the trial, while I sat in my place, staring straight ahead, I felt that the
Papa, are you there? Oh no, is it a Dead Dad game too?
possibly know, much less someone I had brought into the world. I felt no connection at all. To
No,
the
not
unspeakable
this,
things
not
that
again.
survive, while cameras whirred and
And?
reporters, scores of them, scribbled notes.
Oh
bringing these same horrible
no,
things
it's Dead
to the
Mom
world
Day.
at large.
Dead Mom game.
For me, the acts that the defense and prosecution teams described during the trial remained at a horror movie distance. My son had lived in a hideous world, but I could not see it as a world that bore any relationship to mine. Instead, it was as if I were being forced to watch a horror film I did not want to watch, from which I could learn nothing, and from which I only wanted to escape.
Oh, so Lars killed the mom, and so this is the the symbolism is that the mom is killing itself. Like her son. Is that what's happening here? Okay, I think that's it. I think that's it.
Aspects of the defense's case.
Henrik, don't leave me.
And so, throughout the entire 2 weeks of the court's proceedings, I was able to pigeonhole each individual horror in a neat category of physical or psychological evidence. In that way, I made sure that each item was connected exclusively to Jeff, part of his technical defense, a mere trial exhibit, not a human fact at all, and certainly not part of a larger story that was also mine. And so, it was only much later that I began to rethink not only my relationship with Jeff, but with the impulses that had overwhelmed him, and with the acts that he had carried out. Only then did I begin to realize that there were some areas of my son's mind, such as a feeling of lack of control over many things in my life, which I had held within myself for years.
It's so hard to forget this. I don't want to remember.
Sexual perversions exponentially well beyond my understanding, and of course far beyond my capacity to even entertain. Nonetheless, I could see their distant origins in myself. And slowly over time, I began to see him truly as my son, in far deeper ways than I had previously imagined. Jeffrey Dahmer was Lionel Dahmer's own son, his first child and namesake, and even he struggled not to write him off as something foreign that he couldn't fathom how he'd come to be. Lionel said, I still could not face the deeper and most frightening elements of my relationship to my son. I was still baffled by his acts, but I had no desire to dwell upon them. Certainly, I felt no
Oh, there's these weird floating rocks.
As to Jeff himself,
These are just things that are in Norway. Fjords. They're about to float rocks, like Pandora.
My mind almost never
I haven't seen the new Avatar. That's
Instead,
not why it's in my head.
It was as a lively little boy, frozen in his innocence, safely positioned in the distant past. But even when I thought of him as a man, a prisoner, a murderer, it seemed to me that my son was very far away from me. He was far away in the distance that physically separated us.
Okay, this is really Alan Wake now.
In his character and personality, which it seemed to me was no less obvious. In both of these senses, he was where I wanted him, safely away, far, far away. For the darker side of my parenting was still beyond my grasp. Even for Jeffrey Dahmer's own father, it was easiest to create distance between him and his son. More specifically, how he himself, or his parenting, or his choices may have played a role in who his son became. I think we as a society have a lot in common with Lionel Dahmer. We share his fears. We fear Jeffrey Dahmer. Even more, we fear humanizing people like Jeffrey Dahmer, and what humanizing them would mean about our world around them. That's the core of what Lionel Dahmer was getting at when he said, my son lived in a hideous world, but I could not see it as a world that bore any relationship to mine. Instead, it was as if I were being forced to watch a horror film I did not want to watch, from which I could learn nothing, and from which I only wanted to escape. It was easiest for Lionel to avoid confronting his son's life and interrogating what went wrong. And not only was it easiest,
They're gonna keep doing this.
had an obligation to do it. But eventually, that
Why am I here again?
Naturally. I mean, any parent that really cares, they just, first of all, say, gee, I feel guilty. You know, there's just feelings of guilt. What happened? What did I do? What could I have done? So that's a normal parental reaction.
My argument is that like Lionel Dahmer came to realize, we too have an obligation to go back and try to figure out what went wrong.
Why won't you help her?
Again, we write horrible people off as monsters because it's not only hard to believe that routine tragedy.
This is getting kind of irritating. I don't like this.
Loneliness, being socially outcasted, homophobia, poverty, patriarchy, and even religion can turn some people into monsters. It's easier to believe that people are born evil than to reckon with a world that allowed evil to grab hold of them. While reflecting on his son's birth, Lionel Dahmer
So close, I can hear it.
It's impossible to imagine how the end of my son's life could have sprung
Not
from the
this.
beginning of it. But impossible as it seems, it's nevertheless what happened. And we have to be willing to contend with that. I think there's something more terrifying about the circumstances of someone like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Creepy.
Because the circumstances
All
were
your fault.
extraordinarily bad. Meaning,
What?
he suffered, but the way he suffered was
You didn't help her?
unheard of or uncommon. And
I
that's what
didn't
think is
help
so
her. Do they do the W?
Jeffrey Dahmer's are born
W's? I don't know.
Because it's easier to contend
No,
with
I did.
when monsters are just occasionally
Did I? I can't remember.
And if they are,
Do you not find the phone? You killed your mom.
horrible tragedy.
You bleak.
The kind of tragedy they whip up for fictional serial killers like Dexter, where his evil, his need to kill, is explained away as a result of witnessing his mother be murdered and dismembered, then being left in a pool of her blood in a shipping container for days.
Born child, it could be a changeling.
Horrible people being the result of extraordinarily horrible circumstances, because that's what we're trained to accept and expect.
Fairies, the forest magic.
Horrible people and
The fairies want it.
can spring from the kind of routine, neglect, abuse, and values that our society normalizes. Which is the reason why when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested, people speculated about whether he was beaten or sexually abused as a child. Because we want to believe that that's what it takes to make a monster. It's not enough that he was neglected by his parents, abandoned by his mother, cripplingly lonely, and silently hating himself for being gay because his religion said it was a perversion. We need something more, because the idea that something as common as loneliness,
A curse sent to destroy our family.
is terrifying. We are terrified because if loneliness, or simply being a loser, can make killers and monsters out of men, that
Oh,
means
dead. Me, your mother, Lars. Wait.
it makes the male loneliness epidemic
No way.
a threat to our safety.
Who could love you?
I'm incompetent. I'm definitely incompetent. I would. Well, I
Oh my god, it was a dead everyone game.
Nothing wrong with being incompetent because you don't have to do as much. If you're competent, then you got a lot to do. See, but there's another aspect of it too. I've learned to reflect. I just reflect back. I know I don't know. I know I'm stupid. I admit I'm a petty.
Don't go. Don't leave me. Oh, that was a little too Irish.
I got to the point where I didn't want to be a success at anything. What would being a success? What does that mean? You know, money. Oh, I've had all the money in the world 3 times and I had to give it back. It's a stupid little game.
Not my child.
My awareness and my consciousness is not the same as somebody that goes to school and has a mom
You?
and dad. See, not having parents have left me in another dimension, so to say, you know.
It would also mean that there's something we could do about it. Meaning there's more for us
How
to do.
else could you
More
befriend
for
the
us to
forest
eat
of
and
monsters?
relax, more work
Because
to do
you
than
are
many
just
of us
like them?
prepared to do. Which is why we prefer to believe there's just some evil
Die.
born into the world, and that it's out of our
You?
hands, and all there is to do is to find these monsters and throw them into jail after they've already
You
carried
let
out
them all
their
down?
inevitable evils.
One of your dad's biggest questions.
I can't do the stupid accent anymore.
When you crossed over into this world of obsession.
She killed her whole family, and I'm like, how can anybody in Norway take anything seriously?
Can you pinpoint that? Is there a sense for when that really began to happen with you, Jeff? I think it was around age 14 or 15. Started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex.
Yeah, how you failed them?
It got worse and worse.
How you always failed them?
About it, so I just kept it all inside.
We do not want to even entertain the possibility that there is something that could be done to prevent people from becoming Jeffrey Dahmers, or that there's anything to be learned, gained, or changed.
Guardians, I saw my memories.
And engaging them in their life stories as anything other than monsters who killed. But I think that that's precisely what
Eyes are open.
The lives and TV depictions of Jeffrey Dahmer, Ed
Never found the phone. It's not my fault, but it wouldn't have helped.
For us to explore why we should actually humanize these monsters.
Already too late for Mama.
And with their
Oh wait, no, so, okay. It's just the mom. Just dead mom.
Parental abuse and neglect, the male loneliness epidemic, Son of Sam laws, victims' rights, and a billion-dollar TV media industry that exploits them more than it humanizes them. Of all the serial killers and to be fascinated by, I think Jeffrey Dahmer is the one we should all be analyzing.
Bro, this end sequence is really dragging.
So many lonely boys and men could become in a world where we're constantly being warned of the male loneliness epidemic, which has resulted in many boys and men retreating into the manosphere, red pill ideology, and incel communities that prey on their misery and fuel their hatred towards the subjects of their unrequited love. Jeffrey Dahmer's pain, trauma, and every sick, depraved crime he committed all tied back to his crippling loneliness. Jeffrey Dahmer was so lonely, so desperate for human contact and connection,
Oh dear.
and so convinced that he had no way of maintaining those things, that he wanted to keep people permanently, to make them literally a part of himself so they could never leave, which is why he ate some of his victims' hearts, tried his best to preserve their skulls and body parts, and at one point was trying to turn his victims into zombies rather than kill them so that he could have a companion who could not leave, resist, or reject him. Dahmer's first victim a young man named Stephen Hicks. He killed specifically because he tried to leave the house Dahmer had been living in all alone since his father moved out in the divorce, and his mother had taken his younger brother and literally abandoned him there.
The reason why Jeffrey Dahmer was able to get away with his crimes was because of
Thank God I don't have
what you
epilepsy.
are seeing here. Jeffrey Dahmer is intelligent and articulate. That is what makes him so frightening.
Let me make something abundantly clear. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was a sick, lonely, absolutely unremarkable ass. Jeffrey had no friends, no relationships, no talents, no ambition, nothing. He failed school all his life. He was not good at anything. He wasn't smart, not street smart, not book smart, no otherwise. He wasn't talented, nothing. And I do not say that to flame him. I say that because the police and the media have a vested interest in representing serial killers as these extremely intelligent, evil masterminds because they need the public to believe that in order to justify why they failed to catch someone who was on a fucking murder spree. But it's rarely the case, and it especially wasn't the case for Jeffrey Dahmer. In response to how the media rewrote who Jeffrey was, his own father said this about him. My mind recalls only a young man who was passive and more or less nondescript. A failure at almost everything he ever tried. A mixer in a chocolate factory, a job that placed him labor. Now, he was not
represent
famous, but the catalyst for 1,000 different reactions. All his life, he'd seemed so very small, it seemed to me. There were times he'd been so small that I had scarcely seen him at all. Now he was gigantic, the public personality around whom enormous forces swirled. How could this be the same Jeff who spoke in mumbled sentences, who'd sold blood for liquor, who had muttered his sarcastic—
Bro, are you not dead yet? Go away.
Then slunk away, embarrassed and ashamed? How could so small and insignificant a man be blown up to such dimensions at such a blinding speed? How could so gray and unaccented and generally pathetic a figure generate such passion? Never had the vast gulf separating what Jeff was and what he'd done seemed so wide. Jeffrey was a full-blown alcoholic by his senior year of high school. He barely graduated high school. His dad used his connections to get him into Ohio State and he flunked out his first semester. He was kicked out of the military for drinking. He was arrested for public indecency, and he was arrested and convicted for raping a 13-year-old boy. The police were called several times on Jeffrey Dahmer, including when a bathhouse manager called the police because Jeffrey Dahmer had been drugging and sexually assaulting men at the bathhouses. But the police declined to investigate because of their homophobic belief that men couldn't be raped. When Jeffrey Dahmer went to murder the 14-year-old brother of the 13-year-old boy he'd been convicted of raping, the boy managed to escape and ran into two women who tried to help him by calling the police. But when Dahmer returned to the building on his walk back to the store, the police returned the distressed, delirious, half-naked, terrified child back to Dahmer, an adult man who claimed he was the child's boyfriend. I say all this to say, Jeffrey Dahmer's ability to get away with murdering 11 boys and men for 13 years didn't have shit to do with his intelligence or any skill set or ability to fool people. It had everything to do with police and systemic failure. And the news media of then and now prefer not to shed light on those facts.
This man with a quiet, almost shy demeanor became a master manipulator who was able to lure strangers he met at gay bars to his apartment. He was even able to con the police into returning a 14-year-old boy to him after neighbors called 911 upset that the child was in the street naked and bleeding. Dahmer convinced the police that he and the boy were simply having a lover's quarrel.
Boyfriend of another boyfriend?
How was the child?
Wasn't a child.
Okay.
After the police left, Jeffrey Dahmer murdered that boy. Conarac synthesomphone.
They go out of their way to present the extreme negligence of the police that was motivated by outright homophobia and disinterest in doing their jobs as the result of extreme cunningness on the part of Jeffrey Dahmer.
As time went on, his mind became more and more warped, and yet he was clever enough to continue to elude police and lure young men to his apartment.
The media traffics in propaganda, so despite the news from the time serving as real historical records, they don't actually present us with the reality, which is why things like Ryan Murphy's Dahmer do have value. Despite being a show based on the events and taking creative liberties here and there, unlike the news and non-fictional media about the events, the show does present the police failures to catch Dahmer and the role racism and homophobia played in why Dahmer got away with his crimes for so long as the facts that they were. This is unlike the news that posed the facts as questions or opinions that could be quickly tossed aside without truly engaging it.
When it was revealed that most of the victims were black or homosexual, people in Milwaukee were incensed. Many felt that was why he went after them and why the police didn't seem to care when their families
Okay, that's it. That was okay. Again, the ending was a little bit.
17 victims were black. Were they racially motivated?
It was not racially motivated.
Like the puzzles.
Sexual preference. It was just to find an obsession with.
All right, I'll be right back.
Young man I could find.
If you notice, the media all approached the issue of racism in the case as a question of whether Jeffrey Dahmer was racist, or whether race was a factor in how he chose his victims.
Did their race matter to you? No, their race didn't matter to me. The first two young men were white. The third young man was American Indian. The fourth and fifth were Hispanic. So no, race had nothing to do with it. It was just their looks.
The media was intentional never to engage the issue of racism with respect to the police and their failure to catch Dahmer. They always focused the attention solely on Dahmer. But Ryan Murphy's Monster presented the issue the way the media refused to, which was that racism was why the police had not taken the missing person seriously. Racism was why Dahmer was able to frequent, drug, rape, and kill Asian and black boys and young men. Racism was why the police ignored Dahmer's neighbors' calls. Racism and homophobia were why they dismissed them, begging them not to return that child to him. The media and the police refused to engage this because they didn't and don't want to put a spotlight on the deliberate and systemic failures of the police and our criminal system, which does not give a rat's ass about a bunch of missing black and brown boys and men, let alone gay ones. Despite Jeffrey Dahmer's insistence that he was a diverse and inclusive rapist and murderer, and even his own father, amid his insistence that Jeffrey wasn't a racist, still couldn't help but acknowledge the obvious when he said this: "I knew that his crimes had nothing to do with race and everything to do with madness. He had preyed upon young black men merely because they had been the easiest to prey upon. Many of them had been poor, and so they needed the paltry $50 he had offered them. Others had simply been available in the neighborhood, and he had taken advantage of the sheer convenience of having them near at hand. I saw Jeff's murders in precisely those terms, analytically rather than emotionally." Lionel Dahmer can choose all he wants to think that race had nothing to do with it when he says Jeffrey preyed upon young black men merely because they had been easiest to prey upon. But the question we have to ask is, why were they the easiest? The answer goes beyond just their poverty and the ease in which Jeffrey could get them into his home, and it extends all the way to why Jeffrey was able to keep doing this repeatedly without detection. What about young black men made them the easiest for Jeffrey to keep disappearing without the police searching for them? And that's the racism, baby. The systemic problem that allows a monster to thrive. And I think it's important to recognize how common it is, as was the case with Dahmer, that the police fail to protect victims because of their own underlying prejudices about who can be victims. There's a documentary on Peacock about a TikTok star named Ali Abulaban, who went by Jin Kid, who murdered his wife and her friend that he was jealous of. Ali had nearly 1 million TikTok followers in 2021 when he brutally shot and killed his wife, Anna, a woman from the Philippines. Prior to killing Anna, though, he verbally abused her openly on his social media, called her all kinds of bitches and hoes, accused her of cheating on him, and just generally being a cokehead nut. He actually used to be on live doing coke, cursing his wife and mother of his 7-year-old daughter out like a dog. And beyond even what he'd do on Instagram and TikTok lives for all to see, he would also record his own interactions with her in regular life for his own keeping, where he would berate her mercilessly, especially in regard to whether she was having sex with him enough, all while positioning himself as the victim, because he felt entitled to sex with her as his wife. And he also had come to the conclusion that there was no way a beautiful woman like her wasn't going without sex for a month, so if she wasn't having sex with him, she was cheating on him. Mind you, as the documentary exposes, it was actually Ali who was cheating on his wife and abusing her verbally and physically. After years of abusing Anna, weaponizing the immigration system against her by threatening to have her deported and to take her child if she tried to leave him, she finally had enough.
Taking away my whole life. I got a top secret clearance.
About a month before Anna Abulaban's death.
Okay.
Oh. Her husband, Ali Abulaban, known as Jin Kid online, posted this live video to TikTok.
You're not even an American citizen. I brought you to this goddamn country. Name one man.
I'm Virginia. I need something.
In the video, Anna is calling 911 as Ali is live streaming this fight to his nearly 1 million
And we have
followers.
eggs.
Oh, great. You were on the phone with police? Oh, I said that?
Oh, Papa's.
Wow. If I was petty, I would tell them that she beat me up too.
Pickled herring.
Goodbye to your little citizenship.
I've never had it before. I guess I can't really.
Anna's friends took the stand Thursday, testifying that Ali had physically abused Anna. They saw her
Redemption?
and Anna would often ask her friends to help her get to safety.
Complete
When
game.
she left him, he tricked her and her daughter into moving back into their home, promising that he would move into a hotel.
There's things
But
from the
instead,
journal here.
he copied a key, broke into the home and vandalized it, left a listening device
I
on
think
her
I'm
iPad, and when he returned
just
to his
about
home,
ready for quite
she
ready
got
for
right
another
away in the
adventure.
living room, attempting to clean up the mess he made when he vandalized the home. But upon hearing the sound of a man's voice, he took his gun, drove over there, and shot them both repeatedly. And he
I don't know why the ending of that made me like it made me feel irritable for some reason. Just like the way they paced it, like, annoying.
And I can't wait to divorce you, so I can start my new life. You're gonna be sitting on the couch, drinking your tequila, sitting next to your gym rat boyfriend with tattoos.
Papa Bear's tired, growling like a grin.
You're gonna watch Netflix one day, and you're gonna see my face on Netflix. Hey, isn't that your husband?
Full house.
Is my daughter. So you're gonna see my face for the rest of your life.
Out the bull.
And as you just heard, we cut the audio during the times that Aliyah Bulaban had been heard cursing during these audio messages. In court, you could see Aliyah Bulaban very uncomfortable as these played out in court. These audio messages, though, are just a small glimpse at what was played. In most of them, you could hear him cursing at Anna, trying to control her in some aspect, demanding to know where she was and who she was with, telling her that she is not single, calling her disparaging names.
And
here's the thing.
much like true crime shit as I can even take, even like this like distance from it.
Private life. So the documentary literally features the recordings of him speaking to the police after Anna would call them to tell them how he's beat her, how he has pulled out a gun.
Get out of here.
and
Be gone.
threatened himself in front of her daughter. And not only did the police fail to intervene, you can literally hear the footage of Ali playing on the police's biases. He tells them she's an immigrant and he brought her to America and this is how she repays him, and that she wants to leave him and be with another man. Never mind the fact that he's telling the police he abused her and he's not even bothering to deny it because they sympathize with him. Oh, poor man, you brought this immigrant to America and she doesn't worship you? Poor you. It's only you, the man, who knows what's best for your household.
Subnautica.
Abuse this woman is alleging. Of course you need to do what you need to do.
Bring her to this country and on a visa. She's Filipino, man. Did everything. We lived in Virginia. I worked for the government. Our life was set. Simple. A friend here. She's got friends here that she grew up with. Their lifestyle's a mess. I believe she called because she was trying to get me to leave tonight.
So somebody has to be the bigger person. What you don't want to happen is she alleges that you hit her, we have to arrest you, and now you have her arrested.
Isn't that fucked up? It's a woman's world, man.
The police didn't help Anna, and they don't help Annas of the world every day because they're not designed to. In real life, the Supreme Court has said numerous times in numerous cases that the police have absolutely no duty to protect the public. In 2005, the Supreme Court ruled that the police had absolutely no constitutional duty to protect the public from harm. Not even a woman who literally had an order of protection that required the police to arrest her violent husband who'd had a history of violently abusing her. In that case, on June 22nd, 1999, Jessica Gonzalez begged the Castle Rock police to find and arrest her husband, Simon Gonzalez.
Yeah, I'm like learning that I played this for 7 hours yesterday, and that's a little bit alarming.
And kidnapped their 3 children and taken
Maybe
them
I
to
should
an
not
amusement
play
park
this
in
again,
Denver. The
ever.
Castle Rock police ignored Jessica and refused to act until the man literally showed up to the police station hours later with her children dead in the trunk. And the Supreme Court said the police had done nothing wrong by refusing to act on the order of protection that required them to arrest him because the police have no constitutional duty to protect.
Oh, that's right, I quit. It was like 5 or 6 in the morning and I quit because I took it too started to destroy it. That's right.
Brings me back to Dahmer. Lionel Dahmer, like many
Not what I was doing other than
American
that.
families, learned the hard way that the American criminal system is not actually interested in doing anything.
I didn't know how
to
durable the
actually
submersible would be yet.
or address the
Oh,
problem.
it's
Lionel
right there.
Dahmer was always in the business of trying to save Jeffrey from the consequences of his actions and the situations alcoholism would often find him in. When Jeffrey couldn't get into college on his own, he pulled some strings to get him into Ohio State. He got his mom to take him in. He helped him get jobs. But his thought process and approach finally changed when Jeffrey was arrested and convicted for child molestation. Lionel Dahmer said in his memoir, watching him as he faced the judge that day, it was hard to believe that this same son would never be more than he seemed to be. A liar, an alcoholic.
Oh, that's right. I was going to go into the... Okay, other than that.
A molester of children. I could not imagine how he had become such a ruined soul. In the eyes of parents, I think, children always seem just a blink away from redemption. But as I watched Jeff speak to the judge, I felt a sudden sense of my own helplessness.
Where's the
Suddenly,
there?
for the first time, I no longer believed that my efforts and resources alone would be enough to save my son. From then on, I began to look for that external solution. I no longer believed that my own prodding could help my son. My son had passed beyond the reach of ordinary care. While Jeff remained at the House of Correction, I tried to secure the kind of help I thought he needed. I wrote numerous letters to Gerald Boyle, Jeff's attorney. Each letter was more emphatic than the last. And as the months passed and Jeff's release grew nearer,
I wonder if that one's still locked on my pipe.
Determined to find some sort of independent help for my son. But in some things, I was blind as well. I continued to see Jeff's problems as primarily connected to his alcoholism. I allowed myself to believe that if addiction could be addressed, then his other behaviors would correct themselves. I did not want to confront the fact that Jeff was lost to more than alcoholism. I wrote letter after letter to Jeff's lawyer, all of them pleading that Jeff be placed in some kind of highly structured treatment program. I was convinced that if Jeff left prison without being rid of his alcoholism, that he would continue to commit acts of sexual assault and molestation. I told Jeff's attorney that I did not think he should be allowed an early release from prison in view of the fact that he had received no alcohol treatment while in prison. Mr. Boyle replied that the matter of treatment should be taken up with Jeff's probation officer, and that as Jeff's lawyer, it was his duty to seek early release if that is what Jeff wanted, which it was. Two things are happening there. Jeff's father recognizes that simply throwing his son in a cage won't actually address the problem with his son. It won't prevent him from ending up back.
I scan in here. I have to get out.
Probably have to get out. Or what additional resources could truly help him. But he knows he needs something more than locking him up and sending him back into the world as he was, or worse. But the second thing happening is that Jeff's father is trying to get the legal system to intervene. But as Jeff's father came to learn, it's his son's lawyer's legal obligation to follow his son's requests, not his. But more importantly than that is the fact that Jeff's lawyer has no say in this. He has no ability to place Jeff in a program of any kind that he doesn't want, or to unilaterally get court-mandated help for Jeff. And it's important to take note of this fact, because the police and media are always tricking people into believing their ire should be with defense attorneys, who have virtually no say in what the legislators, prosecutors, and judges with the power decide, or the fact that they've created a system that is deliberately meant to be punitive, not to rehabilitate. But like it was for Jeff's father, Lionel, the defense attorney is usually the first or most immediate point of contact. So that's usually who gets the most requests and frustrations with the situation at large placed on their shoulders, which is something I can say from personal experience as a former public defender. But Lionel did eventually direct his requests at the right party, at which point he learned a lesson that you're about to. Lionel said, after that, I had no recourse but to go directly to the court. On March 1st, 1990, I wrote Judge Gardner a letter concerning my fears for Jeff.
I'm running out of interest in this.
Released before his alcoholism had been effectively treated. I went over
like, we're getting way too into the weeds of fucking, like, I don't care about Jeffrey Dahmer's father this much. I don't care.
It had been under the direction of a therapist who was not specialized in treating alcoholics, and that no reports about progress or lack of progress had been made either to the court or to the Office of Probation.
Like, I'm sure the overall subject is interesting, but I need more, like, an overview of what the takeaway should be here.
Might intervene in some way to help my son, whom I love very much and for whom I want a better life. I told the judge that I had heard of a treatment program that claimed great success.
I bet this really hits for people that like true crime shit, though.
Placement in a similarly rigorous
it probably feels like watching like a real documentary or something, or like like real research.
Last line of my letter, and that you can hold the key. At the end of February 1990, I learned that Jeff was going to be released early from the Milwaukee.
Oh my God! Go away! Fuck off! Fuck off! No! 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 I'm so screwed.
He would be on probation.
This was such a terrible idea.
But other than occasional visits to his probation officer, Jeff would be completely free. Knowing what we know now about Jeffrey Dahmer, I'm sure we all
wait. Oh my God.
With a lot more than with his alcohol.
I had to save. That's right.
But even that baseline care wasn't provided by the criminal system.
Not dealing with that shit.
The system does not actually care about preventing more crime from reoccurring. It's
not also, holy fuck.
Why crime is happening.
I'm so lucky it didn't just kill me. Like, I had been over there at night earlier.
In dehumanized media coverage and portrayals of serial killers
without a CMOS.
Over the complicated and nuanced realities of who they were and how they did what they did. Which brings me to my next chapter. If you've been following along, you know that dehumanization is a bad thing. But it's also important to remember that dehumanization does not always look like tearing someone down. It also looks like mythologizing them, glorifying them.
Newell Emmons is an ex-convict who first met Manson in prison in the 50s. He claims he wrote the Manson book after 7 years of conversation with Manson to show that he's no leader, no guru, but just a loser.
Why should anyone care to read this book?
My purpose when I first started was virtually to destroy the myth. I showed that he's not as complex or as the...
Did I already get everything out of it? Oh, it was like the first I checked, right?
He's been projected as being.
Deifying people is also dehumanizing. And Ted Bundy is a perfect example of how and why. Ted Bundy is the face of serial killers whose looks and intelligence are attributed to why they were able to get away with so many murders. That's the mythology the police and the media created around him, and it's one that deliberately gives him too much credit. Ted Bundy was an okay student who couldn't get into any top choices.
I'm actually kind of feeling like shit. I think I'm gonna call it here.
Luring or murdering women based on his dashing good looks. What was actually happening, he would often pretend to be disabled, often adorning crutches, neck braces, and the like, and he would ask unsuspecting women for help, and then he would attack and murder them. He did not evade police capture because he was so intelligent